Hey, hello. Live.
What?
We're live.
Oh, okay. I thought you said why.
Oh, yeah, that too. Why? Ah, there's a couple people. What's up, everybody?
So I don't have an ad read this time, but I just put a video
Boo.
in the group chat from that Morgan sent me that I think everyone would appreciate.
Okie dokie. Let me see if I can.
It's
The
terrifying.
what is going on one?
Probably.
It says what
Yeah,
is
yeah,
going
yeah,
on.
yeah. It's
Well, let's start
fantastic.
with that. Share screen. We got volume. Go.
That was it.
That's the whole thing. What on
Yeah.
earth is that, man? Oh my gosh.
So my brother just sends me the most retarded stuff on YouTube, and he got me.
Somebody made that.
He got me into that channel, and it's all insane, unsettling shit like that. And so Morgan just sent me that short. So
That's unreal. Well, I've got one for an intro. Let me see if I can find mine. Man, who sits around and makes that stuff? Well,
I don't know, but it's amazing.
here we go. Is there a way to make this big? Now the British can't see the Mexican food slop now that Gordon Ramsay's making it.
He's like chewing like an old man with no teeth.
Almost every one of those end in some sort of rocket for some reason. I don't know why. But
Oh shit!
where's your slop
awesome.
now, Sargon? That's the Brits dabbling in the slop.
The slop. That's so rich coming from a Brit.
So, what happened this week?
What happened?
I guess nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Let's call it good.
All right, good one.
I don't know. I started watching Jim Bennett on Foreman Book
did?
Reviews.
Oh, he's on that now.
It was just like
I
2
watched
hours
the
ago
on
that
there.
it was released.
I watched
I didn't
Jacob
watch.
on
I didn't watch that one. How was it?
eh, eh,
Yeah.
I love you, Steven, but just not a lot going on there. I mean, we know that. I guess we just know the story. If somebody knew, it might be interesting, I guess. But what was Jim
Just
Bennett saying?
he was just geeking out about the Tabernacle Choir. That's pretty much
Uh,
all it was. And when I left off, he was just starting to talk about like how they protect their LGBTQIA plus members or whatever. I don't know. So it might have gotten dumb, but he was
so
just
my voice teacher when I was young was in the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, and he came out as the gay after. And I do think that for years, although this is old lore of us, I got into a tiff with Jim Bennett on the Facebook once because I said the Mormon Tabernacle ain't what it used to be. And Jim Bennett got very mad at me and cussed at me from the Tabernacle Choir. Like he was singing the Tabernacle Choir in that moment, and he was cussing at me because I said something. He took a picture, a selfie of himself, and like told me and another guy something about our mother's balls or something like that from the Tabernacle Choir. He said F your mother or something. He said the F word. Yeah, he dropped the F word in there. Mother's balls or something like that. Because I had just said, me and the other guy, we weren't even saying anything. We just said that we thought the choir ain't what it used to be. And I had a theory that one of the reasons it ain't what it used to be is because they kind of started cracking down on the LGBT, you know.
yeah, I'm like, look, Mormon Church, if you want to have the best choir in the world and want to maintain the best choir in the world, you got to accept that there's going to be like a pretty high percentage of gay dudes in there.
Yeah, I genuinely had the theory that one of the reasons because I knew this gal who was going out for the Tabernacle Choir, and I'm like, she's like, I'm gonna make it. I'm like, what? Like, you don't sing? I've never heard you sing. And she goes, well, they just tell you just need the spirit now. It's like, okay.
What?
You know, everybody gets in because they have better spirit and they have better church records. And I knew from back in the day that you had to like go through like an extensive check to get in that choir. You had to be good. And
Bennett actually went over what he had to go through. He had to send in a burned CD of his tryout, and then he had to. He said they like sent him a musical. They sent him like the identical musical piece twice, but in one of them there was one note that was altered, and he had to pick out what note it was. And I guess he says that that's the one where if you pass that, you pretty much get in.
Really? I know that it used to be worse than that because before I went on my mission, I used to clean the church office buildings, and I used to clean all the general authorities' offices and stuff like that inside the church office building, which weren't their full-time offices. They had offices in both buildings, and their secondary offices were over in the church office building, and so they were just like kind of had these half offices over there. But I got to see the room where they do the tryouts, and I got to see the room where they would pick where missionaries would go. And two things that I could see just from cleaning up rooms, like one of the things I could see was the factory of sending missionaries out. I knew better than anybody, and I was in a cold, hard panic when I was going on my mission because I knew it was a factory line. I knew that there was no, like, there's 13 up, 13 down, 13. And they act like they're all praying and thinking and talking about each person. No. It was just a factory line. And maybe like once in a while here and there, because they would get little details. They had like, I would kind of guess it was like 3 different buckets because like they would send like the kids with good grades. That you had to have good grades or something along the lines of good grades to be considered for like Finland and in China and stuff like that because they supposedly thought good grades lined up with being able to speak very tough languages. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was grades somewhere in the middle, and there were places where I knew in that range you could go States, you could go Australia, you could go Spanish speaking, you could go, you know, something like that. And then if you had bad grades, you were just going to go stateside. That's just how it do it.
I mean, so how bad at grades? Because like I was like a solid C student. I did 0 homework ever.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of kids who had like 1.8s and 1.5s and stuff like that.
I guess so.
But you get in this range, like they had cutoffs, and I don't know exactly what the cutoff is. All I did is I saw the factory. Like I could see like the here's the like I'd go into the room afterwards and you kind of see just like the names and the dumps of things here that they dump into there and they dump this stuff here. Like you just tell it was just like dump it. And my dad had told me that it was like that a long time before that. But the other thing that I could see there is I got to clean the rooms where they would do the tryouts for that stuff. And I would see the tryouts. I would see the stuff all over the walls. Like I not the walls, like the whiteboards and all that sorts of stuff. Like they had to like prove that they knew certain levels of music theory, I'm sure. Like it looked like it was all on the walls and stuff like that. And I knew that they had to go in those rooms and pass these things. And it looked intense. But I know that it used to be crazy intense. And my voice teacher when I was young, I only went to him for like 4 or 5 lessons total, but he was super crazy good. And then after he did his 30 years in the Tabernacle Choir, he left his wife for his gay lover, which I assume was also in the Tabernacle Choir for all those years. And so my older brother, he was part of BYU's men's chorus, which is very high up BYU singing stuff. They all started a Provo choir because that Provo choir lets in a bunch of, for sure, open LGBTQ people and for sure open kind of ex-members and stuff like that. And they kind of have this theory of like, we will get this choir, this non-church affiliated choir, and they're like touring Europe and all this sorts of stuff because they're taking all those guys who were getting pushed out of the MOTAB and starting their own choir out of all of them, and they're making like huge waves with it. But speaking of the devil, I told you about this before. They had to call me up like one day to ask like what they need to do with sexual harassment in the choir because they got right in the middle. Like, well, some polyamorous people started polyamorsing together. I'm like, oh no shit, you know. But it's a way good choir. Anyway, me saying, I mean, I brought this up before. Me talking shit on the choir got Jim Bennett very, very upset. And then I even like had out from afterwards. I said something about like, well, you know, we apologized back and forth. And I said, hey, man, like, whatever. Like, I didn't mean to, like, offend you or anything. It's just what I heard. Like, I just heard, like, I legitimately just heard that they loosened the requirements. That's all I heard. And some people say that they can hear it. And my older brother, who's a choir junkie nerd, believes that the same. And he said, well, no, I just think it's this way and that way. Well, whatever. I don't know. Fuck.
Their culture's saying that on Twitter, Cardin was getting into it today with Jim Bennett, which is he usually tries to stay friendly with Jim Bennett. I'm like, man, I wish I could go look at that, but I've been blocked by Jim Bennett.
I was blocked by Jim Bennett as myself. But what was their argument about?
I have no idea. The cult was talking about it. But I forgot. I don't remember.
You were talking Steve Pinecker. Steve had him on saying that they protect the LGBT. I don't think that's so true. I mean, I'd have to listen to the whole episode, but I know for a fact I could, like, I'm not telling tales out of school. My older brother started a choir that they had to start because they knew that these different people could not get into the MOTAB choir. So he's in that choir. He's helping run that choir.
Yeah, I imagine that they have to have like a very strict no porking other members of the choir rule.
Yeah, so it's maybe they protect LGBTQ people who follow all the rules, just like those Timber and those other people that the Word radios have on and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. No, Jim, he was mostly just geeking out about the choir, and then he started getting into the LGBT stuff, but I didn't. I had to come home before I could listen to any of that. I do. So the mission selection thing is always funny to me because I think they like just completely ignore your language abilities.
No, they didn't care. They just looked at like GPA and a little bit of extracurriculars, and then you just got like dumped in buckets. But at the same time, too, I know that was still fast. Like they were going faster than you.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure they didn't even.
Like you might not. You might have just slipped through even if your grades were that bad. You know?
I was pretty solid C average, but no, I mean, I put on my thing that they ask if you have any language experience. I don't know why they ask that because I don't think they take it into account. Because I took 3 years of German in high school. They're like, "Cool, want to learn Portuguese, bitch?"
No, I think I took 3 years of German myself, or 4 years of German, and my dad was a German missionary. But I think they just care if you. It doesn't matter if you like signed up for German for second language classes or not at some point. I don't know exactly like how many buckets of people of these guys could fit for this mission or something like that. But I do know that they just sort in a couple different things of potential things for, and then they just don't. 15 here, these 15 names go there. 15 here, these 15 names go there. 10 here, these 10 names go there. Just boom, boom, as it opens, like as it's requested.
They
you went to Brazil because they asked, like a Brazil thing came up. We need 10 in Brazil. All right, boom.
No, I'm sure that was all it was. But I'm sure they have to come up with the GPA thing makes sense to me because I'm sure they have to come up with some delineation between people who are more capable of learning a language and people who aren't.
But that's also wrong too. You know that, and that's going back in the time. The Mormon Church used to get praise for how good they were at teaching kids languages, and I think they only dumb-headed fell into how it works because I actually did in graduate work. I studied second language acquisition, which this is what Noam Chomsky actually got famous for before he became a politico. He studied the stuff and found out that one of the things that predicts, like it is not your grades and it's not your your propositional, as to use a Verbachian word. It's not your academic smarts on how good you're going to be at a language or not. You want to know what the number one predictor is on if you're going to be good at a language or not? I think I've said it before. But
I know this one.
How outgoing you are or not.
It's
really?
It's personality.
That makes sense.
Outgoingness.
Well,
I can tell you firsthand because, like, as somebody who's like picked up a little bit of a lot of languages, like that is 100% about what it is. It's just like I'm good at picking up languages because I want to talk.
If you dare to fail, daring to fail is very important.
Well, and you're kind of forced. You're kind of forced to be outgoing on your mission.
So a lot of times, overly booky kids who have like perfect 4.0s don't do very good with it because they're just afraid to make any sort of mistake or go out and talk or speak unless it's absolutely perfect and they said it right and thought it out right.
Like, I don't, like since I was a little kid, like the language bothered me, and I don't want this to come across wrong, but like it bugged me personally that I couldn't understand everybody, like and not like it's like how dare you say things behind my back, but it's just kind of like it's like a room you can look into but can never go in, you know? And it's just I
think that every time I play like a new game or something, like the Black Myth Wukong game, I'm playing through it in Chinese because it's a language it was done in, and I'm like, fuck, I want to learn Chinese so I can understand, but it's almost, there is that barrier that you can just never quite cross. You can't ever totally understand all the idioms and the nuances of everything,
you know? But like,
you'd have to live in it forever.
I always make Spanish speakers laugh because they always ask me like, how did you learn Spanish? And I always say in my very bad Spanish, and I know it's bad, but I don't worry about it because I know my meaning is getting across. But I always say like, well, I've learned in this country, if you want to have intelligent conversations about soccer, you need to learn another language. And that they always laugh. And that's good, you know. The other thing I always say is that, like, you know, like they say, like, why did you learn Spanish? And I say in my bad Spanish, there are 40 million Spanish speakers in my country, and I need all the friends I can get. You know, like that's why I learned. Like, and then it's, you know, and it's true. Like that is my attitude. Like literally, I started learning Spanish because I'm like I remember in the 90s when like the guy who served my Chinese food, I was able to sort out my order at a Chinese restaurant by using very bad Spanish. I'm like, okay, I need to learn Spanish better. You know, like just as a practical matter.
So there, you do have to kind of put some work in to get some of the more technical things if you are wanting to get into speaking the language perfectly. But the thing that the church fell into, they of course thought it was like the Spirit or the Holy Ghost or whatever since forever. But what they fell into is what you do is you throw people into it. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
You throw them into it and require them to talk.
No, that's was like they always tried to make it seem like the MTC was uniquely good at teaching you language, and then you get to the MTC and you're like, you're teaching me barely anything. You're not even teaching me, like you're saying, like you're teaching me like words like Evangelio and Espiritu Santo and shit like that. But and I can kind of talk about Mormon shit and kind of introduce myself, you know, and that's about it. It's not at all the MTC. I remember hearing all those stories where they're like, yeah, they sent like the CIA sent investigators to the MTC to see how they're teaching people to become fluent in language in such little time. And I'm like, whoa. And then I go there and I'm like, we didn't learn shit. And then you go out into the mission, and especially if you get like when I got my first Brazilian companion who didn't know how to speak English, it just fucking skyrocketed. Like I got really good at Portuguese really fast after that because you have to. And you do have to go talk to people. Like that's your entire job is to go talk to people.
Now there's certain parts of the language that are high importance and parts that are of low importance, and you can like just see by what people get right or wrong in it what is of high importance and what is of low importance. The simple fact that like a lot of different words in Spanish and some are masculine or some are feminine, it's not that important to communicate. So you can just get them wrong forever and it's not that important. So getting those all exactly and tediously right, that might require some study or just some time of feeling it out. Or something like the subjunctive, unless you're some sort of like language wizard, you'll probably never get it down, but that's probably something you have to sit and study to really, really kind of get it. But other than that, like everything that's just communicative, like the basics, it's all about being thrown into it. It's 100%. And then how willing you are to make mistakes is how good you're going to be able to speak it and understand it and hear it, and how outgoing you are, how often you use it and do it. But so the church was wrong about that if they were sorting people by GPA, but I know they started sorting like all the different kids they're sending to Finland or something like that. They should have sent Flip to Finland. Flip would have learned Finnish. They say those guys can't learn Finnish for like a year and a half. Flip would have had Finnish going in 2 months.
Yeah. No, because like one thing I always tell people about, because like people ask me, like, because like just for example, I do not speak Russian except I can read it, and I've learned enough words that I can make simple sentences, and I've been able to sell all kinds of brandy to Russians, to old Russian ladies, using like literally like my entire Russian vocabulary is like probably 30 words altogether. But they're the ones I need. And but the thing, like I always tell people, like when they're, because like, oh, I need to learn a language, or how do you learn that language? How come you're talking to that guy like that? And the thing I always tell people is like, I am not at all worried about speaking correctly. My only goal is to convey my thought. Like, and that's what I tell people is like, did you convey your thought? Then you use that language successfully, correctly. That's like a whole other thing. But like I always tell people, like worry about conveying thoughts. The correctly will come after that. But like once you learn how to, like the nuts and bolts words you need to use, like the nuts and bolts words I've learned that I've been able to sell.
What do you have to say?
You Ruskies.
You say like Здравствуйте, у меня зовут Flip.
I say
Ты хочешь пить водка?
Здесь brandy хорошо. Brandy Armeniansky хорошо. Ararat. Thing is, they all know cognac Ararat. But like, it's come in before where like, they're saying like, they're like, oh, I don't speak English. And like, I know vina. I know here, there, this, that.
Piva.
And I know red, white. I can say most of the names because it's very simple. Like Italiansky, Braziliansky, Portugalski. Yeah. You just put ski on it. Like you learn that. You put ski on it. And here's the thing is, even if you're wrong, they'll understand that you put the ski on it, that like, they get it that in your head you're putting that on because you understand the ski.
It's sad how often that works in Spanish, and it makes me feel like
fraud. We did that.
Like
I did
if I was
Portuguese.
speaking Japanese or if I was speaking Chinese, how little I'd be able to rely on shit like that, and how often I just confidently say something like that in Spanish, not knowing for sure that that's the word, and then it comes out that it's right. I feel like a fraud, man.
No, I know. Portuguese was a lot like guesswork. Like once you realize how things work, you're like, oh, I want to tell this guy. Like I'm gonna offer him something. How do I say offer? Like, well, I'm just gonna guess. Oferecer. They're like, and they just understand you, and you're like, all right, I got it. We're good.
I was talking to a guy about sleep apnea today, and I'd never come across the sleep apnea lingo in Spanish, and I just dropped every single word as if it was like I knew right what it was, just saying like apnea and like all sorts of stuff. He just understood every single word that I was saying.
Oh, but here's the other crazy thing. Oh, sorry.
I'm saying you wouldn't be able to do that in Chinese. Like I wouldn't be able to pull that shit off or Finnish.
Oh, but here's the other thing that happens to me every time I learn words, and it's funny because like I learn the word and I put it in my brain, and then like 8 weeks later I go, hang on a second, and I'll tell you this, like because part of the reason I learned the language is that like I had a regular customer who was a Russian artist. He's a painter and he speaks very good English. Had a lot of wonderful conversations with him. He was in the Soviet Air Force in the early 90s, right before the whole thing fell apart. Anyway. And I talked to him and learned the words. And so like important wine words are dry and sweet. And dry is suhoy. Suhoy. Well, anybody who speaks Spanish or Portuguese knows seco,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah,
you
there's
already see like, oh, suhoy, there's the cognate. And then sweet is słodkie.
Huh.
Słodkie.
You know?
And here's the fun thing. If you spell słodkie in Polish, because it's the same word in Polish, słodkie, in Polish it's spelled with the L with the slash through it, which is the w sound, but that's just sweet. Sweet. It's our word. Słodkie, sweet. Like, we're all speaking the same language over and over and over again. The words are all cognates for words we actually already know.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that's crazy that happens in Spanish is like you'll learn this word. Oh, I could probably think one off the top of my head, and you'll kind of
like
be like,
you'll
well,
learn a word in Spanish and
then you'll find out that there's a larger
English
vocabulary word English that you never knew.
No,
and
I
always
was
could have used.
That was my exact thing. The word that came to mind was I'd hear them bear their testimonies, and they'd always say veracidade, and it's just truthfulness, right? And I was like, man, truthfulness is such a stupid word. I always complained about that because, like, why do we have a word with 2 fucking suffixes? That sounds dumb as shit, and we use it all the time. And I was like, I wish we had a word like veracidade, and I was like, wait a minute, and I go and look it up. Oh, veracity. It is a word. I just didn't fucking know it.
Yeah, like the word like rencor, and it like means anger, and then you're like, well, I just expanded my English vocabulary because you could say rancor, like something like that in English or something. That happens all the time.
Number go up is like, because when I think you're saying that the English, German, and Spanish are closer than Russian, but not. I mean, no, they all are. Like the Russian word for "I" is "ya." Like that's straight from that's. I mean, that's just proto. All the Indo-European languages have some kind of version of "ya," "io," "ich."
I haven't noticed in some Japanese stuff, some stuff's kind of dangerously, strangely close.
Yeah,
especially
they got arigato, which sounds a lot like obrigado.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, me is moi, you is vui, like which like if you know Spanish and Portuguese, you immediately go see the connection for the plural or for the direct.
In Russian you've got te for you, and you got
tu
in Portuguese. You got and then you got e is and. E is and in Spanish, Portuguese,
in all the yeah.
Did you ever see those YouTube videos that mimic like what English sounds to non-English speakers?
Yeah,
those are hilarious.
Those are really good. Anyway, anybody want to explain the thumbnail and the title today?
Don Bradley's a fucking hall monitor. That's you know what's funny is that it made me. I went back and started. Did you ever watch the Disney show Recess?
No.
It was probably after your time, but it was just elementary school kids, and they just lived for recess. It was the best time ever. And there was the kid Randall J. Weems was his name. You've probably seen memes about him. He's this hunchback little conniving douchebag. His whole thing was sitting out there in recess, snitching on the kids for doing the wrong things to the duty. And I remember this kid in school, and I'm watching Recess for the first time in like 2 decades last night. Morgan's sitting there doing something, and I was like, "Oh, Morgan, look at this little fucker! Look at this little fucker right here!" And that's when Randall comes on the screen the first time. I had like this visceral, angry reaction to seeing this snitch little douchebag, and she's like, "What? What?" I was like, "Doesn't he look like a fucking douchebag?" And she's like, "Yeah, I guess." And I was like, and she's like, "Is he the hall monitor?" I was like, "Yes, yeah, he's the hall monitor." And that's what Don Bradley, he came in and told everybody to stop saying slut. Listen, guys, we need to, I think we can do better and not say things like slut, because that's a word that's used to, shame women for having more than one sexual partner. It's like, you're a Mormon, dude.
Is this your hall monitor?
Yep, that's Randall. It was actually kind of scandalous because some people figured out that his name is an anagram for a small Jew, but his middle initial is J. So.
Oh, jeez.
There's no way that's an accident.
Anyway, Don Bradley, you might have seen him pop up on the ward radios here and there to teach us about a revolutionary new ways to read First Nephi, because it's about, I guess, the underling Nephi taking over a grassroots toppling of the hierarchy from the underneath revolution.
Oh, it's an allegory for Black Lives Matter 2020.
Yeah.
I remember.
What? And yeah, he came into the Latter Day Lobster group, and just out of nowhere, I didn't see the original post. What was the original post? I just saw out of nowhere he started telling everybody, "Hey guys, hi, can we stop using the word slut? Hi, can we do that?"
I can find the original post.
Did somebody actually call somebody a slut?
Oh no, you mean I never saw the meme he was
What
talking
was the?
about, so I don't know.
Where'd that come from? Why was even?
He said there was a meme.
Like, who called somebody a slut in here? And then Flip got on and called Don Bradley a slut.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was blocked a while ago. No, I said,
but you got on the planet us to say if anybody can see, like, pass on.
I said anybody, whoever hasn't been blocked by Don Bradley, let him know that I think he's a cowardly. No, that I called him a cowardly, censorious slut.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know where the meme came from. He claimed that there was a meme that used the word slut. I don't know if it was calling somebody a slut or if it was just using the word.
Did you say that story happened to you, Jared? That you told about the school assembly about we need to getting everybody together?
No, it wasn't me. It was one of my friends. His wife is a teacher, and she was telling the story about how they had this big assembly where they're like, we're gonna stop using the R word and retarded, and they're explaining why they're gonna stop using it, and then say anytime that you want to say the R word, instead say respected. And so obviously some kid stands up in the middle of the assembly and just says, "This assembly is respected." Like, how do you not know that that's going to happen?
No.
Like,
you're respected.
How do you not realize
it's the George Carlin euphemism treadmill that he called it?
Yeah.
Although I just saw somebody in Thoughtful Saints dunking on George Carlin that he's a nihilist idiot. But Casey says it had to do with the Hulu Wives show. But then, I mean, those are sluts, though, right? I mean,
they're
isn't that the
definitionally point? Yeah. Oh my God, we've been watching that actually.
You actually watched it?
Yeah, me.
Oh, you're out of here.
I keep thinking I'll try. I can't try.
It's terrible. So the Dylan soy panel left out a lot, and they're totally right that the men in this show are stupid as shit.
Are they mid? Everybody says they're mid. They're not hot.
No, they're pretty good looking. They're pretty good looking dudes. So the main girl's boyfriend, he's like a good looking dude, takes care of himself. The thing that me and Morgan both found striking is how stupid he sounds. Like, I'm not even trying to be a dick. He sounds like an adult that speaks like a 6-year-old, and doesn't know how to express himself or whatever. Anyway, I found out that the reason Taylor Frankie Paul got arrested in the first place was because she got drunk and went into a rage and started throwing shit through a chair.
I knew that before the show.
She hit her kid.
News. That was in the news. Like,
I didn't know she hit her kid with the chair.
I knew that. Yeah.
Which is funny because you get like Dylan and his soy panel are like, they're extending her so much grace. Just like, well, she's just a flawed human.
She's a terrible person.
Who's trying to grow. Yeah, she's a shitty person, and I'm not gonna disagree that her boyfriend is also a shitty person. He definitely is.
But she can just go ahead and have a kid with him real quick, but then get rid of him because he's not right for her. I mean, that's totally fine in this world. That's how we do stuff.
Oh, it was terrible. And like at one point, like she's not talking to the boyfriend and he doesn't want to answer her calls. So her mom tells her, we'll tell him you're going into labor and then he'll call you. And so she does it and it works. And he calls her and he's kind of mad that she lied to him. And I'm like, I wonder where she learned to be a vapid bitch.
Did she hit Indie, Ocean, or Ever with the chair. I'm looking her up and
Is Indie spelled Yndye or
no, but because like it just says Mama to Indie, Ocean, and Ever. And like I stared at it for 15 seconds trying to make sense of the sentence, and then I'm like, oh, those are her children's names. Oh,
yeah,
So it's funny because
they had what are they called? Not dash cams, like the chest cams of the cops that
Yeah,
were
yeah.
arrest. And
oh
she's like
wow.
there
I
bawling.
have no
for the
idea
old-
who this is because I can't handle any of that garbage.
She's the main one of it. She's the one who started the whole thing, and she's the one who told the world that they were doing the swingings and all that sort of stuff. I
The
also
husband's
listened to
called
some other
Dakota?
podcast that said there wasn't. She admitted in some other podcast there wasn't no soft about the swinging at all. It was straight
no.
swinging. They swung all the way.
No, it was funny because one of the other things that got brought up, and Britt Hartley was the only person with any reason in that panel because they're complaining about at one point they want to go to Vegas and they want to go to male strippers, and one of the women asked her husband like, "Oh, would you be okay if I went to the male strippers?" And he said, I think it might be kind of difficult for you to be just a single mom with 2 kids." Like he's kind of just joking, like, "I'll divorce you if you go," which is a thing that women constantly do. So I don't know why that would be a big deal. But of course, John Dehlin said that was very controlling of him, very patriarchal, and he tells her like, "No, I'm not okay with you going to a stripper," which is pretty fucking reasonable. She goes to the stripper, and her and Taylor's husbands get mad at them. He definitely overreacts. I mean, he sounded like he's like, I can't be with somebody whose character is like yours and who does this. I'm done. And all of the women, like it pans over to the one of the women, and it's like, this just is outlining the misogyny that is so prevalent in the Mormon church. I was like, this isn't misogyny. He doesn't want his wife having a dude with ripped abs and a big dick grinding up against his wife. Like that's pretty reasonable. And Britt Hartley was the only one to point out in that panel, like, okay, guys, but like, you got to know that that if this were the other way around and the men went to a strip club, the Mormon women would almost always be pretty pissed off. And they're like, well, yeah, I guess.
But did anybody learn any lesson? Will anybody ever?
This is all about learning lessons to someday get to the celestial flip. That's what this whole moral coil is about, and that's what they're doing. You don't judge them.
But I finally finished all the episodes of the Mormon Housewives show, and first of all, I would be friends with every single one of these women.
You're stupid.
Included. I think these women are funny and smart and entertaining.
They're none of those things.
Vapid dipshits. All of them.
They are none of those things.
I want to be friends with them. I want to go to Vegas with them.
I could not hold a 3-minute conversation with one of them.
All right? Sue me. Also, I am
All right.
Can we?
Yeah.
That option.
confounded by the caliber of so many men on this show as it relates to their relationship with these women. The scales are so off balance in these relationships. It's perplexing. I don't understand it. Like,
Are you perplexed,
these women
lady?
are beyond beautiful, first of all. Like, stunning.
Oh my God.
John
Like,
Dehlin.
so hot.
John Dehlin is 6'8", and he's got a full head of hair, and
He
got
makes $200,000 tax free a year.
He's got success head. And what is that mid Margie doing following him around? What is this? I would be friends with Dehlin.
What do you think he would talk to Dehlin about? Like, if you had to spend an
They're
afternoon.
Successful. They're driven. They're smart. Like, they're all the things. And some
Are
of
they
the men
all
are
the
just,
things?
they're just there.
Margie's just there.
Just there.
Yeah, she's just there.
Looking the way that they do, dressing the way that they do. Zach, yeah, talking to you. So many of these dudes, not every single one of them, but like it's so clear that they don't know who they are. They don't have an identity outside of these women in their lives. And like they're just holding the women back. So my dudes, I don't know what you need to do. Maybe go on some kind of self-discovery journey. Maybe join Alpha Clan. Maybe go eat, pray, love your way.
What if all those guys went and joined up like wolves, not sheep? That's what. Would you be cool with that? Like they start like a mom talk wolves, not sheep group.
That's just, oh my god, this is stupid. You're stupid if you think that these women are stunning and funny, and like that's just dumb.
Flip, I know Jared's probably seen it, but Flip, did you ever see the video that the one gal got a ton of shit for doing a TikTok dance next to their kid in the NICU?
Oh yeah, no, I didn't. I think I watched that.
I'll pull it up.
Not sure.
Wait, was
Was it
that
just
one of the
ladies?
Mormon? Was that one of the Mormon moms?
Yes, it's Taylor.
Oh,
God.
was it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
She did. Oh my God.
I've got it right here. Let's just finish this goofiness first.
Them go. You're holding them back.
Yeah, high
It's
levels
just
of
sad.
goofiness.
Anyway, mom talk. If you're listening, I low-key
God,
wouldn't
it's just
mind.
so
I wanna be
sad.
part of the club.
Seriously.
Do I send an application? Who do I talk to? My DMs are open. Hit me up.
It's a steep price to pay for
It's
fame,
me.
lady.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just your soul.
Just your soul. Here, let me find the infamous video. They bring it up all the time. I think they showed like a couple minutes of it on the show or something. If I recall.
I don't know. I'm most of the time I'm not looking at it. I'm like playing a game or something. I'll sit there and hear it with my wife, but I'm not going to give it my full attention.
Let me find it. I know I got it.
It's funny because there's one lady that it pans to this woman. I can't remember what her name is, but every single time it has a cutaway of her talking, she mentions mom talk and just like what it stands for and what it means and how we band together in mom talk.
You want to know what? Just to make up for all the shit we've been talking on women, I found a funny girl. I will show you one of her.
Hooray!
She's funny as hell. Let me see if I know I've got this. Hold
The
on.
rare, wild, funny chick.
Is it Scripture Central telling me that joke that Lamanite's skin of blackness was referring to the clothes that they wore?
How'd you figure it out? Come on, just give me a second. Talk amongst yourselves. Nemo is neither a Mormon nor a Nemo. Discuss.
Nemo.
I'll give you a subject.
I started watching, or I watched that short that you sent. He's just being so fucking dramatic. It's hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't know. Like, sure, the church should tell him what he's getting X'd for, but also,
Is it mysterious?
no, it shouldn't. That's the thing. It should be obvious. Like,
Yeah, like
that's what I was gonna say. Is like, are you really shocked? Because he tries to act shocked in that little short that you sent, where he's like, "Your guess is as good as mine." It's
like
it's not even a guess, man.
it's like the guy.
The only reason it's a guess is like which one of these valid reasons to excommunicate you are they using?
It's like a guy who's been like stealing from the company for decades.
Here, I'll pull
And he
that
gets
up.
called into HR and he's like, "What the hell is this about?" Like, well,
I avoid excommunication. Next week, I will be facing a church disciplinary council that will seek to determine if I am in apostasy. And what have I done that's apostate, you might ask? Well,
a
your
lot of
guess
things.
is fine. Because you see, the church is refusing to give me any specific details of the charges against me. So I will be turning
All
up
the
the
shit you talk.
in the dark. As a result, I'm hard at work preparing my defense, and this is where you can help me. I'm putting together a study of individuals who are willing to go on record and say that I did not weaken their faith nor reduce their activity in the church. If that's you,
That's retarded.
or you would like to send me a message of any kind, make sure to send it in to nemoisinnocent@gmail.com by next Tuesday so I can forward it to my stake president. That email, once again, is nemoisinnocent@gmail.com. Make sure you subscribe to hear the outcome of my disciplinary hearing. Did I avoid
Nemo,
it?
look, you did some good stuff, man. But like, there is a 0% chance that more people that you strengthened more testimonies than you destroyed,
Yeah, no way.
which is fine. But just admit it.
Look at this. Do you remember what the recipient was there? We could type up an email right now.
Nemo is innocent at gmail.com.
Nemo is innocent. Innocent. Is that spell that right? At gmail.com.
I was,
it?
yeah. I was literally
Wow.
on the brink of suicide before I found Nemo's videos. He saved me.
I gotta put it in a literally.
Literally.
Literally. On the brink of what's the YouTube word for that? Self deletion. Self deletion.
You could say it in a.
Just for the subject, I've never been less Mormon.
I've never heard less Mormon. I was literally on the brink of self deletion when along comes
Some
What's
daft
it called, Jam?
this limey,
What's it
this
called, Jammy
limey,
Dodger? I see a Jammy Dodger.
this limey, Jammy Dodger. Dodger. And he saves
Me bloody life.
me bleeding testimony. Do not excommunicate, says I. would be a right shame. It would. Anything else? Signed.
Catrilla Wexlingsworth.
What's that first name?
Catrilla.
Catrilla.
I like coming up with random Harry Potter names.
Benedict Wexlingsworth.
Sure, you could do Benedict Wexlingsworth.
Benedict Wexlingsworth. The third. Sent. All right.
We do our part. Look what we do for the community, and we're not even monetized.
He's an utter twat, he is.
I bet he'll use it. Hold on, here I gotta find this dance video.
No, but here's you know what though? Here's what I want to have happen though. Like, I want Nemo, to his YouTube life to just explode to 500,000 subs inside of 3 months, and I just want to watch Divas put out 2 videos a day, just moaning about.
Fake subs. The subs are fake. Although Michelle Stone's subs are fake. He just released that video, and Diva is absolutely right. Michelle Stone is bullshit.
No, I wanted to watch it, but he released it just a half hour before we started.
Yeah, and I just looked at it, and she's got one video with 60,000 views, one with 40, and then nothing with more than a few thousand. Her subs short, are in the 6 figures.
She's got one short that has 140,000 views, but that's it. And you don't. So it was when it came out. She got 100,000 subscribers out of it, and it only had 110,000 views. And I'm like, you know how often a person watches one single short and clicks subscribe? The numbers just don't add up.
Yeah. Don't make no sense, man. Where did I save this thing, man? Divas had more detail on that. There's some sorts of stuff how many views his channels had, as many views as her channels had. He's got a point, and he's got 3,000 subscribers, and she's got 100 quadrillion.
But he's also made 3,000 videos. So
well, yeah, that's true. Dang, man, I can't find this. I want to.
Well, it does seem. Because I guess it is he kind of lays it out. But it seems no way, but I guess it really is true that it is kind of just a brute force game of can you crank out the content over and over again?
Yeah.
There's not enough to talk about Mormonism to release a video a day. It's just not. I don't know. it's an interesting subject to delve into the history. But that's like you'll do
I
like
found
a
it.
series on the history, and then you're done.
Yeah, Divas is totally right. He broke it down. He looked at it pretty hard. He's pretty good at noticing stuff like that. Let's see
He's
here.
a great noticer.
Noticing is half the battle. I found it. Here it is.
I gave birth. Connor took Liam to our pediatrician. The doctor is testing his oxygen levels. And the doctor's like, these are scarcely low. Like, you need to take him to hospital. You need to take him to the emergency room right now. So Connor rushes Liam to the emergency room. The first couple of days were a bit scary. But then he was getting better. And so I'm thinking, like, let's, do something fun. And I made a video.
Oh, it was her. That's not Taylor.
In that video,
What's her name?
I was using my child's sickness for
Oh, look at that dance, man. That dance is so. Like, I thought they were good dancers. Isn't that how they built this up? Like,
and I made a video. I was using my child's sickness for
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, so that's Whitney, and she's the one that everybody hates.
yeah. I say the names wrong. I'm never gonna get them right.
Yeah, that's good. I'm ashamed every time I get one of them right.
If you know all of their names and all of the Backstreet Boys names, you are.
I know. Well, one of them is Mark's brother, right? Oh no, the Backstreet.
No.
I'm thinking New Kids on the
No,
Block.
okay, Backstreet. I bet I could name you most of the Backstreet. I know there's.
Oh my god!
Because
This
I
is
was in
good.
4th grade when it
Let's do
came
it.
out. Okay, get off my fucking back.
No, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it too.
There's Nick Carter. There was. I don't remember the rest of their last names. I know there was an AJ. There was a Kevin.
AJ's the cowboy hat one.
There was a Brian.
Kevin's the short guy.
AJ's the one that had all the earrings and shit too. And yeah, and then there was a Brian. Wasn't there a 5th one? I don't think I can remember the last one's name. Yeah, I don't know.
That's amazing.
Which one is it?
I could probably in sync. I know there was Justin Timberlake. There was Lance Bass, Joey Fatone. I think that's all I know. I think there was.
The other dude. Oh, come on. The other guy was just as big as Justin Timberlake almost for a minute.
Who?
Say their names again.
In sync?
Yeah, you're missing the second biggest one.
You guys are amazing me right now.
You said 3 of them, right? I said
Lance Bass and Joey Fatone.
Yeah, you're missing the second biggest one.
I don't know who you're talking about.
The whole solo career with him.
Marky Mark.
Shazay.
Billy Lance.
No, Shazay. Shazay. What's his name?
I have. This is so beyond my ken.
JC Chazez.
Yeah, this dude, he's the only one who almost had a second solo career, for a while.
Really?
Wow.
Am I wrong? Is out there? Everybody else knows this, right? JC Chazay had a solo career.
I have no idea.
There's got to be somebody out there, at least as gay.
This guy
that can confirm this.
This guy had a solo career, man. He had a solo career. I'm not. JC Chazay solo career. His debut solo album was released in 2004. He had a bigger solo career than the other two. The other guys just went and did cupcake show announcements and stuff like that.
What?
Joey Fatone was on Dancing with the Stars as a host for a while.
Well, Joey Fatone started doing the on the Food Network. Joey Fatone Food Network. What do you do? Yeah, he did a bunch of food. He re-rapped.
Really?
He became the announcer of re-rapped. See?
Competitive snacking 2.0.
Aren't you sad you don't know about this world, Flip?
Yeah, you really missed out. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
So I was listening to some of Nemo's stuff this week because I mean I guess I'll pull up the thing from RFM where he says what he wants out of all this. Share the screen.
Great luck, Nemo. All the best. Hope you get exactly what you want out of it.
Nice.
He
May
will.
all your streams come true, Nemo.
We've got one
then-
more call, but hang on a second. Just a second,
Yeah.
Bill. Nemo,
Uh-huh.
if you could get what you want out of this, what would it be?
To not be excommunicated and to just carry on
Shut up.
as I have been. I was quite happy how I was.
It should be allowed to point out where LDS leaders are dishonest, and it should be allowed to point out where the church truth claims don't match with the facts.
Mhm.
That seems
Should it? I mean, I guess it should, but and stay a part of it.
Dude's got a fucking taper in the background. He's making fun of Mormonism just in his background, which is, again, fine. The taper thing is fucking hilarious.
So I was listening to some of his because he appeared on most of those LDS discussions with John Glynn. He dropped like 56 episodes, which basically started back at the beginning of basically all the CES letter type claims with that one random dude. You know what I'm talking about? And Nemo was on most of them with him. Maybe I can find someone to show them to you. But anyway, I came across this thing where they were going over some of the claims of Joseph Smith. And one of the claims that they talked about was this whole story where Joseph Smith ran away for 2 miles carrying the golden plates and jumped over a log. And they said it's impossible. Here's the story of it right there on the screen, if you want to read what the story is.
As he was jumping over a log, a man sprang up from behind and gave him a heavy blow with a gun. Joseph turned around and knocked him to the ground and then ran at the top of his speed. About a half a mile further, he was attacked again in precisely the same way. He soon brought his this one down also and ran on again. But before he got home, he was accosted a third time with a severe stroke with a gun. It's always 3. Joseph struck this third and final attacker with such a force that he dislocated his own thumb. He continued running, being closely pursued until he came near his father's house, at which time his assailants, for fear of being detected, broke off the chase. Reaching a fence corner, he threw himself down to recover his breath, then rose and continued running until he reached the house.
So I've wanted to. Flip's known for a long time that I wanted to do the entirety of P90X with a cigar in my mouth to show people that I think that it's not that tough a workout. But I want to do the Joseph Smith running with golden plates tough mudder. We should start like the annual run with the golden plates tough mudder marathon, 2 miles. 3 groups of guys try to stop you. You got to jump 1 log and see if you can do it.
I listened to a goldsmith recently explain to me why the plates weren't actually 200 pounds. And he's like, well, and we know that they weren't solid gold. We know they were a gold copper alloy. And I was like, how do we know that? Are you just assuming that? Like, I feel Nephi never said, and behold, I crafted a gold copper alloy. Maybe that's just a translator's anachronism, as they say. But
I guess he's probably just filling in the blanks of just knowing that, like, I mean, pure gold just wouldn't work practically.
Yeah, it wouldn't work practically. But also, even if it was like your best case, it's 60 pounds, and he's just sprinting through the forest with this shit. I don't know. I guess you could say he had God on his side or something. That's the where you win it out is faith. I don't know.
So this is the LDS discussions, and it's like 57 episodes. They're pretty thorough episodes.
The church put out some
this
videos.
Guy here.
They're kind of animated. They're called like the Now You Know series,
and it's basically just
things that happened in
John
the early church because we didn't live through it.
His
so
version of the entirety of the
for us.
CS letter. Like if you look at it, it's Joseph Smith and Treasure, Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon, Joseph Smith translation. This guy kind of just autistically goes through all of it, and this is the type of stuff that all the way back in the day, Flip and I liked. You know what I mean? It's just talking truth claims. We're just going to go through truth claims and go through all of them, that sort of stuff. But
one was actually. I did watch some of that series. It was actually pretty good.
Nemo was there for almost all of them, not all of them, at least half of them, and there's multiple times where he is just right on board with him, saying like none of this is true. Joseph Smith is making it up. It's a big fat lie. And
well, I went into that thing I read last week was a direct quote from him, and like I thought I was gonna have to search his videos to find a direct quote where he said something like that. No, it was the first video I fucking clicked on. He said that what was it? The multi-billion-dollar real estate scam.
They were wrong, but that
masquerading as a religion.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
But I mean, if Jeremy Reynolds got excommunicated, here you are doing multiple episodes on King of the Ex-Mormons podcast about how untrue it all is. I just like why are you baffled? I don't get why you're baffled. And the Brazilian guy today, how much of the Brazilian guys you listen to?
I got about halfway through.
He seems like a pretty genuine dude. And the Brazilian dude, he started like a whole Facebook page where he was just discussing problems with the church in Portuguese with a bunch of different people. And he got on the church's radar for it and that sorts of stuff. And he says, all we are doing is discussing this stuff. And it's true. All they were doing was discussing this stuff. And then he ultimately didn't get taken into an excommunication court because all he was doing was discussing that stuff with people on a page. But he also had the same take on his very episode today. He's like, I think I should be allowed to stay for discussing this stuff. But at the same time, if you do, well, whatever. Yeah, if you get me, you get me. And I'm like, yeah, that's the take. You got me. And at the same time, too, this is just generally what I think about Nemo is that's ultimately what he feels. And all of this is just he's putting this on them to make it tougher on them. He doesn't really feel it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you could either have a video where you say, oh, they're going to excommunicate me, whatever. I don't want to be in their club anyway. And they just get one video out of it. Or you could get weeks upon weeks of shit and sympathy and content to post.
Yeah, I guess it adds your content up. I don't know if he's down with us showing it, but I mean, Jonathan made this little book, the little golden book of Xing Nemo, orchestrated by Nemo the Mormon.
What a bloody shame. I really wanted to be a member of your pyramid scheme.
What's going on here with like the blocking in the chats or something like that? Oh,
D-Vase wanted a shout out.
Yeah.
And Reese was like, I don't know, maybe Flip blocked you. And I was like, I don't think Flip ever blocks anyone. And he's probably just not looking at the chat right now.
Flip is the blocked. He is the blocked, not the blocker.
Yeah, buddy. Talking about blocking, anyway. No, I
said you undid your block. But
I guess, but I mean, the block was never justified in the first place. It never came with the apology, the undoing. Wait. Oh, still waiting on Flip shout out. Oh, well, there you go. I mentioned you before. I don't know how kind it was.
Well, we did talk about how we agree with you on Michelle Brady Stone for sure.
Yeah, there's something. But okay,
go watch his episode on Michelle Brady Stone.
Did I watch it? Because does he say like?
I watched it.
It's one thing to say something is up here, but is she doing it? Is someone doing it for her?
No, Divas is honest about it. He said it could be like a minion on her channel or something like that. She doesn't know, like it might be somebody else who does the click farm for her. But it's for sure. It's for sure a click farm. It for sure is.
Because I mean, it looked like it. But I don't know.
Is Michelle a sweet spirit?
He said that at the end of it. Yeah, he said it was a sweet spirit, and he played the sweet spirit song, and I was laughing pretty hard at that.
Michelle is.
He called her sweet spirit, and he called Jasmine a sweet spirit this week.
Michelle is borderline personality disorder.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, I like it's like just today because just talking about this, I was looking through her video history and I went back to her first video and just started it, and that thing Jared talks about where she's always on the verge of crying happens in like 5 seconds.
Oh yeah,
and I just had to stop it. I just had to turn it off immediately. It's just like, oh god,
I can't handle much of her.
Like, cause I mean, like I don't know, because like I'm curious. Partly, I'm kind of curious because like, what is her argument? Because like Joseph totally was a polygamist.
Oh, dude.
Well, I'd say he
you
wasn't.
got to listen to her arguments because they are like you've heard like a flat earther give like detailed arguments, right?
Yeah, it has to be like it has to be flat Earth level of
So I
denial.
listened. She has a 3-part series on what she just barely released them, and I only listened to half of the first one. It's like the Whitney letters or something like that.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is like it has to be that it was a forgery of a letter, or that the letter was written to 3 people at once. And why would it be written to 3 people at once? And then let's go look into detail at the signatures on these things. And then when was it released by the church, and why did they release it? And what were their motives for releasing it? And it was Joseph Fielding Smith who released it, and that's suspect when Joseph Fielding Smith releases something. And like,
wow,
one of her arguments gets extremely detailed, and
So
you kind of throw your arms up. It's like, okay, so it's like the ultimate mega conspiracy.
Yeah, it's got to be a huge conspiracy because I think she just starts with her conclusion, and her conclusion was God wouldn't command polygamy because women don't like polygamy, and the other strong evidence. Yeah, seriously, she actually says that verbatim, and she also says that Joseph Smith didn't practice polygamy because he said he didn't practice polygamy, and so then she works backwards from there. And some of the things she'll point to, the stronger-ish, if I had to say there's stronger evidence, I guess it's that DNC 132 wasn't published until like years later, like way after Joseph died. But then, of course, that's sort of thrown into the fire because what's his face, the Nauvoo Expositor guy, he published in the Nauvoo Expositor, like word for word, the DNC 132. Yeah. So it's all just stupid stuff. And then when you're backed into a corner, I haven't heard her say this. I don't know if she's espoused this, but I've seen that Clark Abood guy.
Hey, look, there's Don Bradley on her channel.
Yeah, I've seen this Clark Abood guy do it, and when they're backed into a corner and they say, well, there's all these firsthand accounts of him propositioning this woman to be a plural wife, and the Clark Abood guy says, yes, that was a body double employed by Brigham Young too. And I was like, yeah, okay.
That makes total sense. I buy it.
Yeah, I mean, it all gets deep. It gets extreme. It gets looking at signatures, comparing handwritings, saying this handwriting, like any sort of thing that's damning, must not have been written by the person. Look at the writing. Look at the way it's written. Look at the year. Look at the date. Look at that stuff. And it gets so detailed. It is like those flat earthers that kind of know just enough to scramble you up. You know.
Yeah, for sure. And that sounds amazing.
Yeah. But every time I listen to one of her episodes, like she's got 3 episodes for 2 hours on that Whitney thing, I get like an hour and a half into them, and I'm with her, and then at some point I go, I wasn't listening to the last half hour.
I know.
Damn it. And then I was like, I'm not going back, and it just keeps going.
I do Michelle in double time. She's one of the ones that I'm like, I just gotta power through this shit.
But yeah, the wavering.
But if she ever gets in a debate with somebody, like a direct debate, the crying is always on tap. It's always just right there. Like,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, because
well, she had that whole discussion. Argument. She had that whole discussion with Brian Hales, which is hilarious because Brian Hales was always the cringiest apologist to follow. And he's like in his passive aggressive Brian Hales way, basically telling her that she should be excommunicated, but like in a way that he can have plausible deniability and be like, oh, well, that's actually not what I was telling you. I was just saying that, that should be up to the church. And you might be, people saying this stuff might be leading people away from the church. And
so how come Brian Hales just sounds like Weasley Jordan Peterson?
Because have you listened to Brian Hales?
Does he really sound like Weasley Jordan Peterson?
He's not as Kermity as Jordan Peterson, but he's very soft-spoken, and he really does have that opens his mouth really wide to talk type thing going on. And anytime he's backed into a corner, it's like, yeah, that one's a head scratcher.
You're good at that.
I don't
even want to know about Brian Hales. I just want to hang out with the guy you're doing. Like, that just sounds like fun.
I wanted to bring up for a second the worst part of the mom talk, Mormon housewives, slutty wives of slut Utah. Is that I'm not using those words right? The retarded women of Utah.
The most
The
suspected
skanks and the whores. At
The
least
real
Don
secret
Bradley.
the
At least
secret
Don
retarded
Bradley.
lives.
At least Don Bradley hasn't taken away skanks, whores, hussies, or harlots from us. We still have our words.
So they're not sluts at all, but the damned song, this damned unholy
God, I
song,
hate
man. I hate this song so much.
What's the
And
song?
do you know this unholy song? It was like all over the world,
Especially
and
on TikTok. Mommy down, down, running, running, down, running, running, running,
I know
that.
I definitely hate it already.
Well, that's what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about this stupid Phrygian mode. That what is it? The Phrygian dominant mode. That
Isn't
mode
that-
of the song.
Wait, isn't that the Jew mode? That's
It's the
Clickfarms.
Jew mode, and you can hear it in the sound of. It's like I think if you're going to go into Phrygian mode, you can only write that song. Like that's the song that's going to come out. Like I heard the song and I had to like look it up because I'm like, there's no way that that's the first time that little like they had to have been like borrowing that from something, but it doesn't really say it is. You can just say it's Phrygian dominant or something. But like I swear to God, if you go to Phrygian dominant, you're just gonna write that song or something that sounds exactly like that.
That's the only song.
Yeah, that's the song that scale makes. You know what I mean? God, I hate it. And I looked up the lyrics of it. It's so stupid. It doesn't even like really kind of make sense. It's like mommy and daddy. Daddy doesn't know mommy goes to the car shop. Da, 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 da. Fuck off, man. God, I hate it.
He's actually singing about something that like Christians and atheists alike would probably call a sin.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't know why you pay for like the #1 song in the world to stick it on this shitty show. Because this song was like #1 just this year or last year, 2023 or something like that. Like, just write your own Phrygian fucking song, man. Like, you just there, you got it. There's your fucking song. You don't have to pay these dipshits. God, I hate this song. I was looking up like all these videos on Phrygian mode to see if people can do anything but write sex songs about No, the only thing you can write in it is sex songs. So I guess happy Jew birthday songs.
Have you listened
It's
to
your
any of
birthday, it's your birthday, and we're having double sex. Having double sex.
Have you listened to any Chapel Roan?
No.
She's like Lady Gaga 2.0 basically. She exploded recently. She's a pop star. Her stuff is actually pretty good. I don't mind it. It's just then like you listen to like 8 songs about how she's having sex with women and you're like, all right. It feels kind of like that song. It's not, the tunes aren't shitty like that song, but the lyrics are all the same. Like, I'm fucking women. What do you think about that? Like, okay.
I see those songs are like they're written by committee and shit like that. You know what I mean? You know, they're sitting in there and like, let's write a song that like really pushes the boundaries on sex and gender. Ooh, what's Phrygian dominant? Ooh, we can do this. Shut up. Do you want to hear what English sounds like to foreigners real fast?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always love this.
Boom, Scardolandy.
Lord or Solar. Edie Share.
Sounds like The Sims.
Broadway's done tonight. India booking.
I won't tell no one your name. A tired song keeps playing on a tired radio.
You can't fight the tears that ain't coming.
All I can taste is
Why
this
is that
moment.
weird?
1,000 other boys could never reach you.
What?
Everything feels like the movies.
Why don't you?
Why are they saying actual English?
That's just
words?
English. That's just actual words.
Choke down all your anger. Forget your only son.
Why don't you slide? Oh, the
They're
priest
just
is on the
speaking
phone.
in-
Your
They're
father
going
hit
in
the
and out.
wall. Why don't you
Uh-oh.
slide?
It looks like we stumbled onto a polyamory video.
And you're the closest to heaven I'll ever be.
Why does
I give up forever to touch you.
Why do
Little
they keep
pieces of
saying 4
nothing that
words?
fall.
They're just doing
want the
music
world to see me.
lyrics.
Why don't you slide?
Dumb.
They're
Oh,
doing
yeah.
like a lot of Goo Goo Dolls in there.
Yeah. That was disappointing.
Parking here.
That's
Oh, hey, Natson. What's in a house shoe? Lining, panning, barbeting, de minimis, hein?
Let's start with the head note.
It's carpetable. Hashing guards, actually. Tracy Paladin not having it since like 4 day while I was a soap in an ottoman or something. It was palatable.
Tracy was the normal cop?
Yeah, Ashton part though. Mandolin, that older combing dorm dot. Yeah, that heart, the actual placency, and over it was draped like 6 or something. I mean, strange me out, and that was palatable. It's
That's a better version.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. So there was a dude. Well, I guess I'll let the analyzing Mormon gal explain it to us. There was a Mormon dude who used ChatGPT. I'll show you.
Recently, the content creator named Colton B. Miller made a video in response to John Dehlin.
So how I understand is your conceptualization of revelatory experience means like God is speaking words to a prophet and then that's what he's writing down. God's like,
it's what I was taught.
Who taught you that?
The church.
I'm going to read a bunch of General Conference quotes, and I just want all of you guys to decide if what John is saying is true or not.
In his response, he shares 12 quotes that he claims come from past prophets and apostles. And all of them basically acknowledge over and over again that prophets are fallible and that they do make mistakes. The thing is, these quotes are all completely fabricated. If you check the conference talks that he's referring to, quotes do not exist. Dallin H. Oaks didn't even speak in October of 1982, and he didn't speak in the conference before that or the conference after that. And if you read or listen to these talks, there are quotes that infer the opposite meaning of the one he's claiming. In one of his pinned comments on Instagram, Colton Miller says that he is aware that not all of these quotes come from General Conference, but that some of them come from other sources. He says that the 1972 quote from Bruce R. McConkie actually came from Mormon doctrine. But if you check Mormon doctrine, that quote isn't there. I just checked Colton's channel and nowhere has he apologized or acknowledged that these quotes have all been fabricated. Colton, if you're
I don't know if that came out before the other one, but
listening, the quote that John was referencing comes from Elaine Cannon in October of 1978. And from Apostle N. Eldon Tanner the following year, who took her quote and formed his whole Ensign article around it. Similar quotes to these can be found all throughout the church's history. Also, I want the members of the church to understand something very important. Now, I can't speak for all the members who have left the church, but I can speak for myself. I have never once expected the prophets to be perfect or infallible. What I expected is for them to be honest, to not deceive me or hide things when it comes to troublesome aspects of the church. What I expected is that when they proclaim doctrine, they get it right, and that they don't have to retract it a few years later. I expected them to not lead the members of the church astray. Perfection has never been the standard for the prophets of the church. And for the apologists of the church, do better.
Do better.
Do better.
I'm like,
you did
I'm like reasonably on your team, and then all of a sudden you end it with that.
Do better.
Fuck it, I believe all these AI quotes now. We're not hearing anything.
God dang it.
Concern it.
Why does it do that, man? Top sharing. Preview. Career preview. Here we go. Come on.
John. So a week or so ago, I made this video in response to John Dehlin on his Mormon Stories podcast when he had the Stick Joseph brothers on. And as I was listening, when he said what he said in the clip that I showed in that video, I immediately knew that that wasn't true what he shared, and that there had been plenty of times in the history of the church where prophets and apostles have said that they are fallible and that they make mistakes. And so I thought to myself, this will be a pretty easy video to respond to quick. And I made the mistake of just typing in ChatGPT, give me general conference quotes from prophets or apostles from 1969 to 1995. Things along those lines that prophets make mistakes or that they're fallible, etc. And it shot out a bunch of different quotes and gave me specific months and years for general conference addresses and who the quotes were from, and I just didn't even think to question it. And so I just copied and pasted those onto that video and thought, hey, home run. I'm just making this video to say that I am absolutely not intentionally trying to share misinformation or bad information.
Do you know what the subject is about, even? From her video?
No, but wait, so like he went to ChatGPT and said, give me general conference quotes, thinking it would just read
Just help him
official
out.
sources. But it actually fabricated quotes.
It invented quotes. Yeah.
Wow.
This is the same thing that happened. The Ward Radio guys, you remember that life coach guy that we made fun of? He did the same thing. He got ChatGPT to make a bunch of Brigham Young racist quotes, and they weren't real quotes either, and he got caught in that. And a bunch of different people are getting caught doing this ChatGPT thing, just kind of expecting it to be giving them the real answers to stuff, and it isn't.
That information. I literally didn't even think to question the sources of those quotes, and it turns out that none of them were even real, and ChatGPT just basically made them all up. So I definitely want to apologize.
But the subject was John DeLynn had said, I'd heard my whole entire life that you don't question the prophet. What the prophet says is what goes. And so then he had ChatGPT invent a bunch of quotes that say, hey, you need to do your own study. Don't just take the prophet's words as gospel. And they were all live, every one of them.
We're using those quotes and trying to authoritatively make my argument by using them. But by no means was I intentionally sharing quotes that I knew were fictitious. That's not who I am or what I'm about. And I realized that since I've started making content that I pretty much keep my videos straight-laced in an effort to come across authoritative. And you know what? I do have a problem of wanting to be seen of men for sure. And that's something that I think I've struggled with for most of my life. So newsflash, I'm really not that smart. I pretty much just have a passion for making sure that the doctrines and the faith that is held near and dear by many members of the church is.
What's with that spooky music, man?
I don't know. Is he just like watching Zen meditation music 10-hour edition on YouTube or something?
I guess so.
And sense can be made of it, which I strongly believe is true. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that I was pretty embarrassed when I posted that video. And a few days later, someone DM'd me and was like, hey, I can't find any of these quotes that you're talking about. And I realized that ChatGPT wasn't all that it's cracked up to be. So from here on out, I'm definitely going to make sure that I double check the sources for anything church history wise that I put out there. But again, I just wanted to say that I absolutely did not intentionally try and share something that I knew was fictitious or made up or false. I haven't decided if I'm going to take that video down or not yet, but I do want everybody to know that.
Wait, is it still getting you views or something, buddy?
I mean, like, it'd be one thing if you like put it up with a banner through the entire video with like a see description for disclaimer, you know.
But the whole fucking video was a lie.
Just leave it.
Or maybe it's just that thing like you can't run from your mistakes, so you have to leave it up or something.
I still hold the same position against John DeLynn and what he said in the clip that I originally made a response to. And in the caption, I'll share a handful of quotes with their sources that you can look up and double check for yourself. Because anybody is lying to themselves if they really truly think that the church teaches us that when the prophet speaks, the thinking is done. That's just absurd.
Isn't that a direct quote, though?
Yeah, it's a direct quote.
Is it? Like they did say that, like the thinking's done, like that comes right from.
Yeah. So
yeah. No, that's.
I think it's telling that he didn't. He's like, I got other like real quotes now. I'll put them in the description. Like, or you could just say them right now, like you did in your last video. I don't know why you're not doing that.
So how I understand is your conceptualization of revelatory experience means like God is speaking words to a prophet, and then that's what he's writing.
Not my
God's like,
expectation. It's what I was taught.
Who taught you that?
The church, prophets, seers, revelators, doctrines of salvation, Mormon doctrine, my seminary teachers, my bishops, the church education system. My indoctrination into Mormonism taught me that when a prophet speaks, he's speaking for God, and you don't question it, and you don't disbelieve it, and you don't ever say you don't believe it, and you don't ever criticize a prophet, you just believe. When the prophet has spoken, the thinking is done. That's what I was taught.
I'm going to read a bunch of general conference quotes, and I just want all of you guys to decide if what John is saying is true or not.
So
President
not one of these, like every single one of these is fake.
Hinckley in October of 1969 said, "We are not afraid to have you test our doctrine. If it be true, it will stand the test of time. If it be false, it should be rejected." President Harold B. Lee in the October
Didn't they
19...
say something like that at some point though? It probably wasn't Gordon B. Hinckley
here's the thing, is like,
in conference.
I know that you can find lots of things of them saying like study, search, but like the plain language of you don't have to trust us. You can search this out for yourselves. Like, well, no, not exactly like that. Like if you what is it, proof text, you can make the argument either way. But like, no, I think in the aggregate, no, they said that the prophets are prophets, and that means that we have to take what they say as prophecy.
Risto says ChatGPT is almost as bad as the news.
Close.
1972 conference said, "We are not infallible. There have been times when members of the church have become confused about the relationship between the fallibility of man and the inspired nature of the Lord's prophets." Elder Bruce R. McConkie said in the April conference, "Now I do not claim for one moment that the leaders of the church are infallible. The only infallible being in the universe is the Lord. There are times when the servants of the Lord err in doctrine, administration, or policy." President Spencer W. Kimball said in October of 1977 General Conference, "We who have been called to positions of leadership in the church are not perfect. We are fallible, as all mortals are, and we have weaknesses and shortcomings." Elder Packer said in October of 1979 in General Conference, "Even with the best of intentions, it is possible for church leaders to make mistakes. That is why we rely upon revelation and continual direction from the Lord. You must learn to rely on the Spirit and confirm for yourself whether the teachings you receive are true. We are all subject to error." In the October 1981 General Conference, Elder Bruce R. McConkie said, "We do not ask you to blindly accept what we say. The right to ask questions and seek confirmation from the Spirit is a fundamental principle of the..."
A long time ago, I had the
I don't know why it stopped, but anyway.
Brother Miller.
Some of them sound like they're kind of...
They sound like believable quotes. They sound like I can hear them in General Conference. ChatGPT is pretty good at mimicking.
Yeah. I don't know. I wanted to talk more about patriarchy.
Bro, you don't have $100 million. Bro. I don't know why that popped in my head.
I just pulled that one up. I don't know. The patriarchy, man. Like, so you could say, oh, hold on a second here. I just barely noticed Flip's name, but Flip's not there to answer it. Slut for decorum. And I don't know what your dick body thing is. Bro, you don't even have me.
No, it was that stupid witch thing that you sent, or someone sent it in the group chat, where that lady was talking about doing ritual abortions for witchcraft. Yeah. And she just mentioned like, and this is good for any womb-bodied person. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. I've heard vulva-bodied, and it's probably still the dumbest one. But so yeah, I'm dick-bodied. It's just letting everybody know.
Yeah, I'll find that one. Hold on a second here. John Bon Jovi.
What are you looking for?
That one, the gal who. Oh goodness gracious! I found a worse one. Yeah, we found a witch who says that she likes to use the abortion for the death magic of it, which doesn't exist according to Megan.
Yeah. Well, plus it's also not death because it's just a clump of cells, lifeless.
Yeah.
But I am worse than a rapist for saying that, just so you know. I don't know if you knew that about me.
Here, I'll pull up some other stuff in the meantime. Flip, what's your slut for decorum? Morgan mentions the quote from Oakes about you can't criticize them even if it's right.
Yeah, I'm a slut. I'm a slut for decorum, because saying
story.
slut is the opposite of decorum.
Oh my goodness. All right. Another article that came out, another line of discussion out in the social media this week was the patriarchy. And there was an article in the Tribune called "We Can Do a Lot to Blur the Lines of Patriarchy in the LDS Church," says feminist author. And this is an author who spoke at the Restore conference. We talked about that last time, a conference that was held in Utah in Sandy, I think is where it was. Yeah. Anyway, all kinds of speakers, more progressive, perhaps Mormon.
Hey, everybody. Feminist here. Subvert.
Mormonism. And this speaker talked about the patriarchy. And I won't read everything. Her name is Nylan McBain, and she did write a book called Women at Church, Magnifying LDS Women's Local Impact. And one thing that she said that stood out right up front, she wanted to make it very clear, is she said, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints must acknowledge that the faith is a patriarchy. There you go. Mic drop. She started out right up front by saying, yes, it's a patriarchy. Okay, tell us something that we don't know. So she goes on and she says, many of us do not see the extent to which our organizational structure, the language we use, the understanding of God, our quoting of spiritual authorities, our visual representations in our meetings, and the stories of our scriptures, she told the audience at Restore, they all center on experiences and viewpoints of men. And I agree with her. We don't see it. We were raised in it. That's just how it is. That's what's in the air. It's interesting to talk to people who attend the church from other denominations, and you'll read things where they say, where are the women? Where are the women's voices? Where are the women's stories? Where is anything about women? I don't know if a lot of us inside of it see it, especially people of a certain generation, my generation. Younger women do, and we're going to talk about that more in a minute.
The church
So
has
her
lots
book,
of books about cooking and sewing and children's and
gossiping
and
So
gossiping.
Let's still man it. Is the church is a patriarchy, right?
Like the church is organized like as a patriarchy, as in like the idea that men hold the positions of power. But like there's a big chasm between like that as a plain statement and what they're saying, what they mean by patriarchy. Like I mean to hammer home the analogy that I keep hammering home, like there's a really far chasm from Zionism, as in the idea that the Jews should have a homeland in the Levant, right? Like the most basic definition of Zionism is you believe the Jews should have a home, right? Compared to like the Nazi conception of Zionism, right? Like, and that's the thing, is like that's the word game that feminists play. Because like, well, yeah, the church is patriarchal in the sense that like, yeah, the structures are run by men. But the idea that like that translates to women have no power and no voice and like
Yes, it's a big old Mott and Bailey.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. Like, no, it's not that thing, And that's the thing that we're dealing with right now in the last year and for the last 100 years, is that like you have to be careful about saying that word Zionism, because like like we had the same thing with like Christian nationalism. Well, are you American and you want America to succeed? Yes, you're a nationalist. And do you believe that Jesus is your savior? Yes. Well, you're a Christian nationalist. Like, well, hang on, right?
Yeah, I decided to use the Chat GPT to ask the Chat GPT if it had anything to say about if there are criticisms to patriarchy theory. And do you think Chat GPT pulled some stuff up for me? It actually did. Maybe I'll pull it up here if I can. I have to transfer it over to Word, and I don't. How do I get a Word document to show on here?
Oof. You know how to Word? Should just be a share screen, right?
Yeah, I'm trying. Entire screen. Let me try doing that. Hold on a second here. Do you see this?
Yep.
Yes.
It talks about the simplification of power dynamics, complexity of power, intersectionality. It goes from the feminist critique that's too simple just to say it's just patriarchy, because what about all the other stuff? But it talks about historical shifts, changes over time. Men actually have some vulnerabilities, emphasis on toxic masculinity, women's complicity, shared interests. And then this is one of the ones we always harp on and get onto, biological differences. Some of these things that they're complaining about are what Thomas Sowell calls cosmic problems. You're complaining about cosmic problems, not about things that were created by a Mormon church or something like that. Functionalism and gender roles, societal evolution, cultural variation. Look, it gave a pretty thorough description that there are critiques out there of the patriarchy concept.
Surprising.
But, yeah. But of course, it always goes back to like go even further into lesson. Capitalism or class-based critiques. Marxism, feminists often critique patriarchy theory for downplaying the role of capitalism or class in the gender oppression. But I don't know, the patriarchy stuff, especially nowadays, like all those like D tier TikTokers commenting on the retards of Mormon secrets. All of those people, every single one of them talk about how like those women are totally oppressed in the situation that they're in, and they're just not oppressed in that situation. They are the dominant people. They're the ones making the money. The men don't even have an option. You don't think those men, if they had the option to do some little fucking jiggly dances to get TikTok views, they wouldn't have done it? And like, I mean, that option's not available to them to become those types of breadwinners. But then so many of those different people talk about, well, these women should just leave those mid men behind because they offer nothing, even though half of them are going to medical school or something like that. They're just young. They can't make TikTok money yet because they can't get up and dance on TikTok and get 1 million views for that. But the patriarchy stuff really kind of just drives me up the wall, but not because, like Flip said, it's not, the Mormonism doesn't have some patriarchy in it. Here the Mormonism does.
But it does. It also, it's this weird like intersection of like a patriarchal structure that is very gynocentric. Like it's the wildest thing. Like there is no more whipped. Like I think American men in general are henpecked, but Mormon men, I think, are the next degree further of just being the most whipped guy ever.
Yeah. I like Anthony Miller shared in The Lobsters this thing of the Sinek guy and Noah what's his butt talking about friendship and males and friendship, and of course Simon Sinek, and of course in this they drop this line in the middle of the thing of men.
It is an absolute honor to be there at the time they least want to call you.
Hold on, I'm a little slower. Normal.
Do you think that women have a better grasp of friendship than men? 100%. I think for that reason, women make better CEOs.
What?
I do. I mean, we've heard it from multiple female
Look at his eyes while he's trying to spout that bullshit. Like, he knows he's lying.
Women come up to me more often than men.
Like all these tech bro things,
they get my work
all that
much better.
For applause.
Men come up to me and ask for case studies.
Wait a minute. Wait, you're trying to make the case.
People taking care of people is a good thing for business. Women inherently understand that and make decisions accordingly.
No,
so yeah, I
they
do think
do
women
not.
are better. I think women are less
Okay,
afraid.
okay. You know what's
fucking
funny?
planet do you live on?
Fantastical. It's
I don't know.
fantastic.
Have you ever listened to Simon Sinek before?
No, that was the
No.
Because
first
for
time
some
ever.
reason,
I don't
like
know who he is.
every managerial, he's just a motivational speaker, and every managerial idiot that I know thinks that like we want to at every fucking meeting we want to watch him, and he only speaks in platitudes. That's it. And I don't know. Sometimes he says some interesting stuff or whatever, or some good stuff, but it's mostly just platitude bullshit. And it's hilarious that he thinks that he's praising women, and the way that he does that is he says, "Women get my work. They come up and say thank you so much," and men ask for case studies regarding my work. Wait a minute. You're trying to make the case that women are better, and you're saying that like they never even question your work, and men want further evidence.
They want
Women
metrics.
kiss my ass. Men
Those
want
stupid men.
I also don't even think that's true. Like the women I've worked, like if some woman works up to that position, they're every bit as cutthroat as every guy I've ever met.
Oh sure.
And I know some like that. I've worked for some women who are as hardcore as any CEO you'll ever find in your life. There's no mercy, no mercy. This show came out on Netflix just like yesterday or something. What's next? The Future with Bill Gates. And man, I don't know what's harder to hate watch, like this or the retards of Mormon Secrets. I can't. Like it's seriously like it drove me up a wall. But let me show you. Did you look at the clips that I showed you of it? I didn't. Hold on a second here.
No.
I did, but I couldn't hear it very
Retards of Mormon Secrets. Today.
Look at this. Look at this longhousey stuff here. Oh, that's the second one. Hold on. Woman, she's the professor of information studies at UCLA.
Information studies?
How do I think about a concept like truth?
Information studies.
Come in with us. How do I think about a concept like truth?
Conspiracy theory historian.
Well, I think there are things called facts. If I put my hand in that fire, it is going to hurt. I believe to be true.
These are the longhouse people that they're following up to talk to the future about us. And these half of what they're talking about is what they're trying to program into AI, because they got to think about programming in their biases into AI because it's what's good and what's right.
Yeah, I think the other one, like, how do we create truth? Yeah, that one.
Straight Foucault stuff.
How we create truth.
Truth to whom?
They're all Foucauldians. Just straight Foucault.
Becomes something more akin to opinion, or even worse, like belief.
Oh, it's so theoretical. It's so theoretical. Like I can't even hate watch it. Like I seriously can't even get too far into it. They're so full of like what's called the boomer truth regime. And part of the boomer truth regime, we saw Steve Eliason said that his son started working for that Palantir company, which is also one of these AI creating companies that they have Foucault right on their wall of their conference room. They're sitting there discussing stuff about what is truth, who can say what truth is, and they're all talking about what sort of biases they're supposed to program into the AI that we're all looking at and listening to. It's all
Was Peter Thiel like just trying to tell everyone that he's evil by naming his company Palantir? Like
it seems
the Palantir is an object that's not as evil as the ring, but still pretty evil. Yeah. Like it's something that you have to really conquer, and if you don't conquer it, then it destroys you. It destroys Denethor.
Well, once again, I listened to that whole Brazil guy leaving the Mormon church stuff, and he once again gives the description of not really being deconverted, but being converted into the new boomer truth regime, as you might call it, or as Flip called it last week, churches just become platforms for the DNC and stuff like that. But it's also the same, like you just watched that whole future video. It's like, how can we program the straight platform of the DNC and all this DEI stuff? I showed you guys stuff that my certification stuff now calls itself SHRM Inclusion. That's the name of it now. And this is all in the middle of the week that we have the Matt Walsh's movie come out that makes a fool of the whole thing. Click, you said you wanted to go see it. You didn't get to go see it yet, did you?
No, I wanted.
Am I racist?
Yeah, we're gonna go see it tomorrow.
You got tickets and everything?
Yeah.
Whoa, tickets?
Did you guys see that the news program that he duped was Good Things Utah?
Yeah.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, you got the Good Things Utah lady to start stretching out of their racism type stuff. It just kind of shows like how people are dupes for it. This is the concept of the boomer truth regime. The boomer truth regime, which is what everybody's getting, we call it blue church around here. People get converted to blue church. They're not deconverted from Mormonism. They're converted to blue church more often than not. And just some of the ideas behind it, the overly optimistic progressivism stuff's only going upwards and onwards. That dude, the Brazil dude, said that he had his first faith crisis from reading Noah Harari's *Sapiens*. Whoa! And, optimistic progressivism. We're just going to progress in the future to all transhumanist, whatever. Individualism and personal fulfillment, a focus on personal freedom, self-expression. I mean, we know that from the boomer truth. Universal moralism, and that's where you get the neocons who got to march into the world and carry to the world our feminism. We got to go convert them into everything. And I see people bring up that complaint, like Jordan Peterson put up this video that was complaining about Iran. And the video that complained about Iran just generally talked about how Iran's not down with feminism and homosexuals. And you go, okay, so that's why we hate Iran is that stuff? Like the whole reason we're supposed to hate Iran is that stuff. And
I mean, how much are they not down with? Like, are they throwing gays off of rooftops?
yes, they are. They killed like 4. They said number like 4,000 to 6,000 of them.
Well, then I think it's pretty fair.
For sure. But the point is like you got to like pull up like other reasons than just going to the boomer truth regime reasons. Like material wealth equals progress. That's the line goes up thing that I think that other guys using that name in here. Line goes up. All that matters is that the material wealth goes up. Bring in those Haitians and you can have the Haitian food all over the world. Although I saw the what's their names? The Lotus Eaters talk about the Haitian food and they like take a look at Haitian food and somebody, I think Christopher gave us that stand-up comedian who's like, man, all this food that these foreigners bring, it sure is great. And I just can't wait to see what food the transgenders bring around because it's going to be amazing. Boomers often equate economic growth and consumerism with societal progress. Academic Agent argues that this focus on material wealth overlooks moral, spiritual, and social decay that might accompany consumer culture and the legacy of the civil rights movement. The boomer generation often celebrates the social changes that emerged from the civil rights movement in the 1960s and 70s. Academic Agent suggests that this has led to the overemphasis on identity politics and victim narratives in contemporary society, which of course we know, like the whole reason Maven went and became an activist is because she has Selma envy. The whole reason that Matt Walsh's movie's out there is because that stuff went out of whack. And I saw some people like just kind of theorize different, like how did it get so out of whack? And you hear all sorts of different theories about it. But some of the people declare that the reason is because it got so good that you had to start finding it in you had to become a critical theorist and find it in all the little places because it was no longer there in all the obvious places. So you have to become somebody who sees it in all the little things. And that's where you get these people who watch the Mormon retards of Utah housewives and watch them for critical consciousness porn, like find out every little possible thing that you could call the patriarchy.
Yeah, it just gets shittier with each iteration of it because like, oh, that guy already noticed that there's patriarchy in the Catholic Church, so I got to go the next step down and I got to notice that there's patriarchy in, I don't know, Boy Scouts. Well, that guy noticed the Boy Scouts, so I got to notice something even further down the line. So school lunch lines are colonialized and white supremacist. And it just gets stupider and stupider. That's what that's how Kimberly Crenshaw existed. That's got to be it, right? Like how she decided to come, like because all of the patriarchy was woman-splained away by that point, and so she had to notice something else. So she came up with intersectionalism to link other things, and that opened up a whole new level, right? Like a whole new level of coming up with stupid bullshit to be racist. Because, well, actually, this thing. it looks harmless, but it's actually connected. It's rooted in white supremacy and colonialism because.
It gets back to that like little thing we got where people have like the whole sapien take that like, oh, we're just here, I'll let this guy sum it up in a single sentence. Hold on here.
Modern people will believe that neuroscience has sufficiently disproven the existence of free will and still get mad at you if you say the N-word.
I've been pointing that out to people lately. Anytime I hear somebody say like you can't be bigoted against a conservative because or a Mormon because that's a religion and an ideology. It's not like you can choose that. You can't choose your race. That's the difference between the two. It's like, oh, so you believe in free will.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of people I know are like, I'm super smart and cynical, therefore I do not believe in free will. I read that Sam Harris book.
So this is basically
What is culture jamming? Culture jamming is taking everything that you see on legacy media and amplifying it to the point where people can see how blatantly absurd mainstream culture is.
And that's what you did at the DNC?
That is exactly what I did at the DNC. The lover that my wife took is African American, and like I've learned so much about the struggle that people of color go through as a result of my wife's boyfriend. The reason why the people believed it is because this is literal mainstream thought in the Democrat Party right now. We live in a clown world, and I'm just here to both expose and enjoy the circus.
So much of that stuff in the Bill Gates, I got through 2 episodes, and they get into thinking about how do we battle and fight this disinformation stuff. And of course, it's all been coming out like Hillary Clinton's coming out saying that we've got to ban and even prosecute people for giving out disinformation type stuff in the world. And Glenn Greenwald's been on about all these different places that are just coming up with every little reason in the world why you can't have the free speech, man. It's too dangerous, man. Anyway, let me show you what part of the problem, because like I noticed that where is it?
Shit, man.
I noticed like in that whole Bill Gates thing, they're just like they're all these nerds, and they're all these like super autistic nerds who are deciding how our future is going to go because that AI stuff's getting so overly powerful. But the people who are supposedly the ones putting in their care and their, I don't know what you call it, their empathy into the stuff is just their stupid little angles on the world, and it's their boomer truth regime stuff. It's their what do they call their altruism? That effective altruism stuff, which is such horseshit.
God.
But these guys had a pretty good theory on the problem with those nerds.
They just know what I like.
And you know what? This might work a little bit because the nerds are susceptible to female bullying. And I think a guy wrote this, but it is female bullying to nerds. Because I think, if you get girls telling nerds like, hey, don't do this.
Yeah.
I think nerds are a little susceptible to that unless they kind of cross the path to incel where they no longer care what women think.
Yeah, if they start going to the gym.
But if you think of high school, university, it's like the most people that are like, that will be privy to listening to women's rules are nerds that don't get pussy.
Well, only the kind of alpha nerds. Like if you go to like a Magic the Gathering, like whatever tournament, like most of those guys are not even.
What's an alpha nerd?
Like the alpha nerd is always the one where like the ones around him and they go, oh my god, he's going to talk to a woman. That's... And he's still like a total, he's still a total nerd, but he's like the alpha nerd, like where he can he has like minimal social skills.
So you're saying he's a little susceptible to it.
He is, because he can taste it what it's like on the other side. Like he's like, I could see what it looks like on the other side. Where these like super autistic nerds who are like, just wear whatever clothes and they don't care about any appearance, greasy hair. They're like, they
cross over.
They're never getting.
But that's what I'm saying. I think I'm using the word incel. I don't have a better word for it. But when it crosses
those guys
over
can cross
to
over.
Who cares what they think?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's the nerds that still have like potential pussy coming at them.
Yeah. Who can like talk to a woman.
yeah.
Whereas like and make eye contact and keep eye contact with somebody.
But they, you know what it is? There's a switch where some dudes that put women on a pedestal, where they switch to now they fuck women.
Yeah.
And I think it's like the probably ground where they put women on like a pedestal, like some normal chick talks to them and they're like, she's a goddess.
Yeah.
Simps, I guess you might say.
Yeah, simps.
So we're throwing the nerd round. We're not great in our terminology, but people probably understand the picture we're trying to paint.
Yeah.
But I think they're the most susceptible to getting to like.
Part of the problem with this is that we are in the age of the longhouse. That's why we are the latter-day longhouse. And what if all his kind of summed it up in the way that aggression is done now that we are in the gynocentric, what would you call it? The female-centric. We are not in a patriarchy anymore. We are in something where our bullying and our societal things, like they said, that types of women will bully nerds, and the nerds who run the world get bullied in that stuff and have little conferences with Trevor Noah talking about how, well, women are just perfect right as they are. And this is he summed it up here.
Are just as aggressive as men. They just put that aggression into interpersonal relationships. This occurs through GSR, or gossiping, shaming, and rallying, that being female relational warfare. If you look at what the left does, they always smear their enemies and make their enemies socially unpalatable. They've been doing this to the right for decades. Leftism is GSR on a continental industrial scale. For an easy example of this, the left criticizes me for being a pseudo-intellectual, incel, autistic, egomaniacal, deranged, schizophrenic, broke, loser, fascist Nazi. None of those are true, and for many of those, the reality is the exact opposite, but that doesn't matter one whit. What matters to them is that they made me look low status and thus not worth listening to. It's the political version of a mean girl saying you look fat today.
That's the patriarchy we're living under.
What a patriarch. It's at least it still directly benefits me in every way. Except the ways in which
that privilege.
Yeah, well, except the ways in which benevolent sexism happens, you know.
So it's time for me to throw women a bone, and I'm going to show you guys what I declare. This is me, like, I'm pointing at the fence. Like, if you're going to point at a fence, you got to hit a home run. I'm telling you, I think I found a funny girl.
You know what would be really hilarious is if he pulled up a trans woman comedian.
Dang it. No, I'm just kidding.
See, I told you women are hilarious. This one's talking about her balls.
Let me see. Where is she? Hold on a second. Oh, I've got some other funny ones. Where'd it go? There she is. Here she comes.
Excellent day in the neighborhood. I sure hope that I won't be faced with an ethical dilemma in the very near future.
Pull the
Don't
lever.
pull it.
Lever.
Don't listen to
Oh,
them.
rat.
It's the trolley problem. First I lose my keys, and now
Don't do
this.
that.
Today is just not my day. Hey everyone. Sorry, I was just trying to go to the store, but I stumbled upon this ethical dilemma. Now you're responsible for your moral choice. What you do or what you don't do will probably haunt you for the rest of your life. I'm a productive member of society. Shut up, nerd. I went to a small liberal arts college in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Shut up. That hurt my feelings. Everybody calm down, okay? Calm down? Don't tell us to calm down. We might get run over by a train. See? You said might get run over. So you still admit that there's a sense of hope. It's always great to have such a positive mindset. Wait a second. Why can't you just roll off the tracks? What do you mean? No, we can't. We're stuck like this. I'm stuck. It's no use. We can't escape. Guys, come on. You can do it. You don't need to be in this situation. These fools don't know that they're in charge of their destiny.
Quick, the train's
Don't
coming.
pull the
Lever.
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 You derailed the train. How could you
There were
do
people
this? In there. I didn't. The trolley.
What an ex.
What is she called?
I don't know. She's funny as
What's it
crap.
called?
She has
Camille what?
I got it's another one.
Show
from
it
her.
again. I want to find. That's the best thing. She was Camille something.
She's so dry. It's great.
Let's see. I got another one from her. I thought that one was funnier though. Where'd it go? There she is. Camille Cookie.
Camille Cookie.
The last ingredient.
So you made new parts based off of the old parts of the ship, and you're gonna make a new ship. Yeah. Is that not the same ship as before? What? No! 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 You're not really making a new ship. You're just rebuilding the same ship. But I'm making it from new wooden parts. But it's still the same object and it serves the same fundamental purpose. They're not the same parts as before, so it has to be a new ship. But the ship is going to look exactly the same as before. But they're different parts. Different parts! I don't know what kind of crack you're on. It has been fundamentally changed. It does not get any original qualities. Why are we only defining objects based on what they're physically made of? I mean, you wouldn't just describe yourself as a walking vessel of flesh, would you? That doesn't encapsulate your whole being. Yes,
Clump
things
of
are in a constant state of change, but there's still something that remains fundamentally the same. Are you not the same child as you used to be? I know your eyes still have that sparkle in them. Shut up. So,
She's a female Joel Haver. Have you ever seen him?
Yeah.
Man, that's great.
So did you guys see the Hawktuah girl has a podcast now?
Is that real? I just assumed AI did that.
Oh no, she's got a podcast. The Zizek thing was fake, or at least I'm pretty sure.
I've got a guy who did a review of her podcast. Would you like to watch his review?
Yes.
Hold on a second. I gotta find it. Although I want to pull up your meme of it. Is that pretty close by?
It should be fairly close.
Oh, that girl cracked me up though.
Yeah, she was great. The poor Hawktuah girl really thinks she can milk this.
I mean, seriously, like,
minor moon
how much
fame.
could she get out of it? Like if she was smart and like gets a packet of money and like saves and invests, like, could she just set herself up for retirement just with the Hawktuah thing?
That'd be awesome for her. I don't know.
You know,
but
like no, just like like just monetize it as much as she can for the 12 months that she can get anything out of it. She'd probably make, like, if she was real smart, probably make a nice little packet.
Here you go.
The Hawktuah podcast's first discussion, 16th century naval warfare, proved to be an incredibly enlightening and insightful dive into an underrated, poorly understood topic. The conversation began correcting a major misconception. Although sailing ships were in use by this period, oar-powered galleys still dominated the Mediterranean. The reason for this is because speed and maneuverability in shallow waters were key. Naval warfare still imitated land warfare closely. While ships were equipped with cannons, these early models lacked the range, rate of fire, and raw power to reliably before they were in boarding range. Sailing ships, which relied on favorable winds, were especially at risk when compared to galleys, which did not need wind to maneuver well. Then the podcast moved on to the actual nature of galley warfare itself. They explained that were not large pitched battles, but raids, skirmishes, and sieges. However, when two fleets did engage, the result was often far more destructive than on land. When Haley questioned Whitney on why this was, she responded that the utter chaos and unpredictability made retreating in proper order next to impossible once the fighting began. As ships fired volleys of missiles at point-blank range and men fought their way across decks, There was nowhere to run or hide. Men who otherwise may have fled the field and survived on land had no choice but to fight or perish. And of course, enemy weapons weren't the only danger. Fires spread easily on ships, and falling into the churning waters was almost certainly a death sentence. These lethal conditions are seen most plainly in the Battle of Lepanto, where the victorious Christian fleet could barely sail away because so many corpses were floating around their ships. 40,000 men lost their lives that day. Despite the high casualty rates, fleets needed well-trained and experienced sailors, and such men were a premium commodity. Spain, Venice, and the Ottoman Empire were the preeminent naval powers of this period, and controlling the waters of the Mediterranean were imperative to their wider strategic goals. As galleys had little room for food and water, frequent resupplies at ports were needed, and thus the primary focus of these powers was control of the port cities. Eventually, cannon and ship technology would render galleys obsolete, and European strategic focus would shift more towards the New World as their colonial empires grew, leading to the true age of sail we all know and love. But to the ladies of the Hawktuah podcast, galley warfare is an incredibly fascinating chapter in naval history that should be appreciated more.
Like, for just a second, I thought that like brilliant manager was like, "Here's what we're gonna do with you, Hawktuah girl. We will just book real life historians and just
Oh
go
my
with
God.
it. And I kind of want to see that. Like
They
now,
should have
like,
done that because her entire fan base was men. Like if she's like, I can Hawktuah and spit on that thing, and I can also talk about Prussian warfare.
Yeah.
Well, instead
No,
it's a good.
that would like fulfill a kind of nerd fantasy. It's like you want to talk to like the attractive girl about your interests, and like normally you don't get to talk to girls about 16th century naval warfare, and that would just be a great way to just kind of let a lot of people live out their fantasy. Like what would it look like to be a nerd, talk to a hot chick about dorky shit?
Well, I guess it's a pretty good way for autistic guys to get their stuff out there. Talk about your warships and just say the Hawktuah girl guy talked about this, and here's the story. It's funny stuff. Oh, do you want to see the Alyssa Grenfell one that set Divas off?
Yeah, I don't know. So he was mad at her.
Did Divas leave the chat? Like
Yeah, he's
before
not there
we got to
anymore.
the part where we were gonna talk about him.
Yeah, he's
I
not there
guess so.
anymore.
Poor guy. He's probably making another 16 videos.
3 facts that made me, a lifelong Mormon, realize the Book of Mormon is a made-up fantasy book. The Book of Mormon claims to be a nonfiction book about real-life Native Americans. These Native Americans originated in Israel and came...
So Divas did that deep dive on Michelle Stone's sudden popularity, but he's got to be curious about Alyssa's sudden popularity too. Like, I would like him to do a deep dive into that, because to me, the way she shot up and kind of passed like Kara and Zelf doesn't make any sense. Like there's something astroturfy about it.
came on a boat across the Atlantic Ocean to settle in the Americas.
That's what set him off. In the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh yeah, no, that's right. We talked about it in the chat. Like, what a weird thing.
The church had to update the introduction to the book when DNA evidence proved that Native Americans came from East Asia, not from Jerusalem.
First of all, nowhere in the translated text of the Book of
I didn't even know
Mormon
this was
is
him.
there a claim that Native Americans would be the descendants of the Lamanites. The old introduction asserted this, and it was updated in 2006 to say that the Lamanites are among the ancestors of the American Indians. And there's definitely no conclusive evidence, as she claims, that disproves this. In fact, scientists even posit that if we had Lehi and his family's DNA and were able to compare it to the American Indians, we likely wouldn't even find a match because of factors such as population bottleneck, genetic drift, and post-Columbian immigration from West Eurasia. For more information on this, check out the Church's Gospel Topics essay on DNA.
Book of Mormon is full of anachronisms. If this was really a nonfiction book about ancient people thousands of years ago, it shouldn't mention many, many different things that were actually present in Joseph Smith's time, not in ancient times. The presence of things like iron and steel make it clear that Joseph Smith made this book up.
It's curious to me how anachronisms supposedly prove that something is false, yet anachronisms are constantly being debunked by science when new findings are uncovered. There were 130 plus supposed anachronisms in the Book of Mormon, and today we're down to just over 30. It seems to me more like the absence of evidence isn't the evidence of absence. Not to mention the Bible still has quite a few anachronisms itself, such as domesticated camels from Genesis 24 verses 10 through 11 that predate the widespread domestication of camels, or iron tools used in Genesis chapter 4 verse 2 when the Iron Age wasn't until long after that period, or references to Samaritans in 2 Kings chapter 17 verse 29 before the Assyrian conquest of Israel, and the reference that the country Elam was a power from Genesis chapter 14 verse 1, which isn't in sync with the historical timeline, just to name a few.
This book also discusses many, many different battles that took place between thousands of people in ancient time in the Americas, but no archaeological evidence of these battles as described has ever been found. Joseph Smith said that one of these battles took place at the Hill Cumorah in New York, but despite significant searching, no armor, shields, swords, bones, or any evidence of any kind has been found at that spot.
No archaeological evidence of these battles has been found that we know of, and Joseph Smith never said that a battle took place in New York. However, there certainly are archaeological evidences for Book of Mormon peoples to have been where and when they said they were in the Book of Mormon timeline. For example, an ancient burial site in the Joff Valley in Yemen, discovered in 1990, with the inscription in Hebrew NHM on an altar. This is significant because in 1 Nephi chapter 16 verse 34, Ishmael died and was buried in a place called Nahum. And in 2008, the Sana'a National Museum published findings of over 400 ancient, crudely carved funerary stelae found in the Wadi Joff. Among these is one with the inscription of the name Ishmael on it. While these are probably some of the more notable evidences, there are others. The only fact that all of you really should be considering is, why does this creator not believe in God or Jesus Christ when we have quite a bit of archaeological evidence that supports the Bible? It's because supporting archaeological evidence of a text isn't evidence that other truth claims in the text are true, such as the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Even if we had concrete evidence for the city of Zarahemla or Moroni's Standard of Liberty on a pole, this creator likely still wouldn't believe that Nephi shocked his brother with the power of God, or that King Benjamin was taught by an angel the sermon that he preached on his tower, or that Alma saw an angel and was called to repentance, or that anyone heard the voice of Jesus Christ in 3 Nephi chapter 9 and 10, or that Heavenly Father's voice declared to the Nephites in 3 Nephi chapter 11, "Behold my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased, in whom I have glorified my name." Here
now,
he just goes on.
I guess it's all debunked.
What? Oh man, that is savage. He just mic dropped her from the atmosphere, bro. He just got her shiz all in a bundle. You know what I'm saying?
So,
Oh
because
my
okay,
God, dude.
there's one thing I don't know if they ever think about, like with the Nahum thing. It's like, okay, so they found an NHM place somewhere in the Middle East. Okay, if that is where you're going to lock down one event from the Book of Mormon, now tie everything else from that narrative into that. Can you plug it all else in? Because, like, I don't know if they realize, like, it's a double-edged sword, because, like, okay, now you have a geographic center for at least one part of the Book of Mormon. Can you make it fit? Like, you're still in the same place you always were.
Well, it's also this battle she's talking about, man. Like, especially the Jaredite battle with Coriantumr. If I remember right, that battle in a single battle had literally millions of people dying.
Yeah.
Like there was millions, more people dying in a single battle than probably ever in ever, right? Like it's got to be. And you'd think we would find something, man.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
the old. It sounded pretty debunked to me. It's debunked.
Pretty debunked.
Well, and you can do the whole Mesoamerican theory, but like I think Joseph Smith pretty obviously thought, like in his mind, this stuff took place in North America. Like he found the skeleton, the Zelf, and said this was Zelf, the white Lamanite. Like that skeleton was in North America. In his imagination, this was in North America. It seems just completely obvious to me.
Well, no, there's also the whole thing. It's like, well, he never said the battle happened anywhere near the Hill Cumorah. Well,
He
no,
did.
but the story doesn't say there was a gigantic battle involving millions of people
in New York.
And then I walked 3,000 miles and then I wrote this part of it. Like, it just, well, no, it's implied that, of course, like, it has to be there because that's the only thing that makes any narrative sense.
I mean, he talks about the Hill Cumorah. Anytime he mentions the Hill Cumorah, he's talking about New York. And suddenly we're supposed to be like, oh, no, this was a different.
Like, I mean, I even remember as a kid, I was really messed up in the sense that, like, because I figured, like, well, okay, the majority of the events must have taken place in Mesoamerica because that's the only place we have any evidence of a major civilization on the level that's described in the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
But even then I was like, okay, but then, like, why did this end up in New York? Like, and since I was a little kid, that was the thing I could never freaking figure out. It's like, wait, how did we get from, Teotihuacan, whatever, in Mexico City to the Hill Cumorah? Yeah, like that, I could never figure that out.
Yeah,
but this guy just debunked it, so I'm an idiot, and I'm sure Carden thinks I'm stupid, and Jacob thinks I'm dumb.
Well, Jacob put out that request again. I mean,
for what?
Where is it? Well, he put out that the same exact gambit. Like, I thought he'd kind of alter it, but
oh yeah, that's right. I remember now what you're talking about.
Here it is.
Prove that the supernatural claims of my religion aren't real.
Jeremy Reynolds and others imply the Book of Mormon is an obvious fraud. This is a positive claim. I want to see if they can support that claim in light of the evidence. If anyone knows Jeremy Reynolds, please let him know. I am formally inviting him to debate the following question. Is there a plausible naturalistic explanation for the Book of Mormon? Also, is there no plausible naturalistic explanation for the Book of Mormon? If there is no plausible naturalistic explanation for the Book of Mormon, doesn't this mean that people should stop acting as if its fraudulent nature is obvious? Doesn't the word plausible make that really simple?
Yeah, I don't think he understands words though.
Probable. Skilled at producing persuasive arguments, especially ones intended to deceive. Plausible liar. I mean, because so many of those arguments for the Book of Mormon rely on plausibility, right? We mentioned the other week. You're saying, well, there's a plausible explanation for steel. There's a plausible explanation for this and that and the other. So you're already kind of just relying on some vague plausibility. Plausible just makes it really easy. Like, I don't know why. I still don't get why he's putting that premise that way.
I feel like Mormon apologists should do themselves a favor and stop trying to take faith out of religion.
Well, that's what I said it to Jacob. I said it to Carden. I said it to him over and over again. It's the old Christopher Hitchens quote. Do yourself a favor and call it faith.
Well, it seems like most of what apologists do now is try to take the faith, or at least Mormon apologists, they try to take the whole faith aspect out of it.
Oh, they all do.
Like if you I don't know, if you're talking about the Book of Mormon, it's a thing of faith. You know, I have faith in it or whatever. But I don't know. They keep. It's like they try to. I don't know. Jacob does it a lot. He'll try to make every part of Mormonism material.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, like.
But I think it's supposed to be,
there's nothing.
No, you're right. I think that Mormonism kind of does. So I guess it's not all like Jacob's fault, because I think that's what Mormonism has like originally tried to do itself, is make itself basically a materialist, as close as you could be to a materialist religion. Because they tried to explain, especially once you get into like Skousen explaining intelligence, as he tries to materially explain the atonement, which is wild.
I mean, it's also the religion that says those God figures are out there, like in this universe. They're not like some weird fuzzy haze monster or whatever the Trinity is. You know, but I mean, I think it's all supposed to have. If you knew what the scientific explanation for whatever sort of science God is doing, it all has a science explanation, a material explanation to it in the Mormon world, supposedly. If you could know what God knows.
What if God was one of us?
That's a good question. Here's some new Provo terms.
So you've heard about soaking and you've heard about soft swinging, but do you know what a Provo All-Star Bro is, and do you know what a hair school girl is? Because terms that were used time in Utah to explain people that usually were in Utah County, sometimes at BYU, sometimes at UVU, but they basically were like what Zach is in the show. That's kind of what a Provo All-Star Bro is. They do summer sales, so they make a bunch of money. Then they just work out. They don't treat people very well. They think they're the shit. Then the hair school girls are like the opposite end of that, which are like mom talk girls, where they go to school to do hair instead of getting college degrees, or they're doing some alternative to kind of match the energy of the bros. So that's like a whole culture down in Utah County, and you're getting kind of a little taste of that. But yeah, now you know.
Every Provo All-Star Bro, which I think exists, I've ever met, is a perfectly jovial and polite guy. They might be trying to sell you something. But
Yeah, I mean, they're irritating, but they're nice enough people.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I've got like 50 more feminist TikToks, which each time I end up looking at them, I just go, ugh. But I have them all saved in here, literally that many of them. I've got weird AI.
A lot of weird AI going on.
A lot of weird AI going on. What else? Anything else going on in the Mormon world?
I'm trying to think, like, because I mean, the only thing is the Divas's weirdness. They're putting out 2 videos a day in an attempt to become.
Oh yeah, he's on a rampage to become the guy and
the number
and
one.
Nancy pointing at center field fence.
No, I actually messaged Culture about that earlier today. I was like, "D-Bay seems like he's just burning a lot of bridges. You know what's up with that?" And he was just like, "I don't know. I think he's just tired. Like he likes Steve, so he wasn't talking shit on him or anything. He was just like I think after 3, he said, I think Divas has had a lot of experiences with all these Mormon people, but and some of them weren't good and some of them were good. But then at the same time, I'm like, I kind of had some behind the scenes privy to your interactions, and they didn't sound that bad. I don't know. It feels like you're just pretty sensitive about this, man. Like,
well, I mean,
I don't know. It feels kind of like he sort of owes. It's like I worded it this way. It's like he applies Marx's value theory of labor to becoming popular. And for anybody that doesn't know, Marx's value theory of labor basically states that the amount of time that goes into creating a product should directly reflect the value of that product. So if Flip is a master craftsman who makes this gorgeous like wooden chair in a day, and I am a dog shit craftsman that takes 3 months to make a shittier chair, mine should be worth more because I took longer to do it.
Yeah, you put more effort into it.
It's kind of what it felt like with him saying, like, I don't know, he's constantly talking about subscriber count of everyone, including himself.
Yeah.
And then and he, I don't know, he seems mad that he's not more popular. Like, I've put out a video every single day this year. I'm like, well, okay, but like you gotta make sure you put out pretty quality stuff, you know?
Yeah, like also like a lot of your videos aren't that much. But no, the thing that caught me is that he's like he did like that's the thing, I was gonna say he did an episode, then I realized he did a series of episodes of like that were like, hey, let's do a rundown of other Mormon podcasts, and it was just his gripe sheet on those podcasts.
Yeah.
But one of them was like the thing that he kept saying is like, they're not a real news podcast. Like, Well, and neither are you. Like, since when is that the thing? You know, like it's just such a
Well, what would
weird
make
thing.
something like a newscast? I mean, he covers Mormon news. So does that
But-
unquotable girl.
Yeah, no, but it's just so strange.
I mean,
like-
they cover Mormon news. I like if you could be a Mormon news cast, like Dives does it, but then like so does Bill Reel. I think
But
he's
no,
kind
but
of
he
mad
doesn't
that
do
I think he
news.
feels like people stole his idea, but it's
He's
just
not a
like
journalist. Like he says, like I mean, he's the roundup. All he does is reviews, which is fine, you know. But it's like it's a weird thing to be like, hey, this other review show doesn't do news; it just does reviews, like me. You know, it's just
yeah.
he's a weirdo. Someday he'll be the king of Mormon podcasters. I'm sure.
He's pitching his hat in the ring. I tell you what, like when I went with the Ward Radio guys and sat down with them before we made the podcast, they thought of ideas. Like I went because I thought we were already going to talk about something, and right before we did it, they wanted to make sure that each clip was only so many minutes long, according to the algorithm. And then when they had different ideas of stuff, they had some sort of metric tester and some sort of thing where they looked up on the internet to see like how far the reach of this idea or this word or this thought might get or go. And they did all this like kind of pre-internet searching for how to make the thing viral, which it kind of threw me off because I thought we were just like talking about the stuff we were going to talk about, you know what I mean? But they definitely had like an angle of how are we going to make this clickable, and that kind of blew my mind because I thought they just were generally just doing stuff or shooting shit out there, kind of like we do. But at the same time, we do jack shit for paying attention to how to grow viewers and see what viewers are. But at the same time, too, I'm also somebody who never once notices how many viewers or how many subscribers another channel has. I don't look at that. I forget to look at that until Divas mentions it. But
Yeah, he mentioned that it sounded like Mormon Discussions was losing subscribers. I don't know what that means.
Is that real?
I don't know. I haven't really looked into it, and I won't because I don't fucking care. But like I don't know if it means they're actually losing subscribers or if their growth rate is declining or what's going on.
Are they?
I have.
I know some channels that get up into the monetized world start worrying about stuff like that because it
Well,
matters like how much money you get coming in for ads and stuff.
No, I'm sure it.
Like
I'm
even
sure
if
it
we ever
matters.
got to like monetize, it takes like 1,000 subscribers to get monetized. We
Yeah.
say shit and do shit every single podcast that would immediately get it demonetized.
I think
So,
I've pretty much decided that if I ever got big enough to monetize a channel, I just wouldn't like just. Oh, I don't know, or maybe like I could monetize it, but just I don't think you should get paid to speak because as soon as people get paid to say things or to have opinions, they have to do it. They start doing it every single day. And if you have to have an opinion every single day on every single thing, you just kind of you start having batshit opinions because you have to. Like there's
well, I
no
mean, you
way
start-
around it.
I mean, I largely feel like the whole thing of that temple stuff and the temple spires, like I thought that was maybe worth a story, maybe 2 stories, maybe 3
Sure,
stories.
yeah, we would have
But
talked
the month
about
and
it.
a half that went on and on and on about it was content creation. It's like we got to make this in 11 because if we make this in 11, it becomes content and it helps whip up our channel and gets other people looking at our channel. It's possibly a thing that gets outside people to click on it and subscribe and that sort of stuff. And certain ideas become more content oriented and it alters what you look for and chase. And then of course there's certain like you can't say the words like rape and stuff like that. That's where all those like weird little modern day euphemisms we all have because of people
file.
worried about their PDF file
I hate
and,
that shit so
and
much.
unalive self and you
But
can't
apparently,
say
like, yeah.
you can't say porn. So I don't even know how you talk about Mormonism and never. I mean, what word they use for the porn? They use corn. I've heard them say corn.
Yeah, they say corn a lot. They'll say vaccine, but then they'll just bleep it out.
Yeah.
It's so fucking stupid. It feels like saying the N-word. That just feels silly to me.
It's
Like,
baby stuff. It's magical thinking.
But you have to go through like the user.
Yeah, it's AI powered magical thinking.
You have to go through like the user applicability stuff and find out all the words you're not allowed to say anymore and that sort of stuff.
It's fucking childish, man. I grew up in like until 5th grade, I was in Rexburg, Idaho, which is seriously 98% Mormon. And so, like, I didn't know what certain swear words were, because when I would ask people, it's like, he said the S word, it's really bad. And I'd be like, what's that? It's like, well, I can't tell you. I was like, well, okay, spell it so I can know what it is. They're like, spelling it is just as bad as saying it. I'm like, what? What? Come on, I'll never know what it is. So, like, I grew up thinking the F word was fetch because that was the only F word I heard until I finally heard fuck, and I was like, oh, okay. That's what it feels like. Anytime somebody online says the N word, I'm like, you bitch, come on. Like, I know you'll get.
Well, Louis C.K. put it best, where he's like, now you made me think it.
I know, you put it in
All
my
you did
brain.
put it in my brain. That's all you did is put the word in my brain.
And let me just to be clear, the only reason I'm not saying the actual word is because it might get this video taken down. I don't know how that works.
You know, it's
because saying
weird
the
how
N
much-
word feels fucking childish.
It's weird how much power that word still has. It's
No, I know.
magic.
Well, and here's the thing. Like, I think it's really, really shitty if you go up to a group of black people and call them N words. Like, I think you're a sack of shit. That's racist.
That's unkind.
But if you're on, if you hear about the story of that guy and you go to your job reporting the news and you say he called them, and then you actually say the word, you're
I think-
also going to get in just as much trouble as that guy who's actually racist. But you're not doing a thing that's racist.
And right up until like 3 years ago, the New York Times would write the actual word and stuff, and now they say N word and all that sort of stuff. Everything's
Yeah, the Young
moved into
Turks
that.
used to do it.
Riesel says he was fairly balanced about Jacob's Vizda stuff. Yeah, that's true. If you want to see something about some random person popping up on Davis's live stream to pull up some sort of supposed business, I don't know what, like tax evasion stuff on his business, he had it on his most recent live stream, and Divas went through it, and he knows something about the renting business, and so he was kind of questioning on if it really was tax evasion or not, or if it seems viable. And yeah, he was definitely looking at it objectively as he was taking it and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, he treated Jacob pretty fairly in that.
Although that might like pop up more and more places. Who knows? I mean, that person, whoever it was, is obviously trying to make some large case against Jacob and has some sort of file on it that he's spreading around to people, or she. It went by some pseudonym of Mary Martinez or something like that. And I don't know, man. But do you want to see a spoof on McKayen?
Yes. Are you kidding me? Yeah, of course I do.
That's kind of. Well, I'll show you.
If you really dig into the scriptures, you'll understand that skeletons, even when they're reanimated by a necromancer, they understand who they once were. They retain those memories. All right, let's see it. Book of Skeletor, chapter 1, verse 3. It's all there. Everybody, I'm Dan McSkellen, scholar of the Necronomicon and skeleton lore. This is a perfect example of someone using their personal dogma to guide their reading of the text. So that is your brother. That is your sister, reanimated from the ground, coming out for love from you. And you're going to shoot them with a flaming arrow or something. Nah, brother, you need to welcome them with open arms and love. There is no evidence in either the referenced text or in the earlier works by Grigory Rasputin that skeletons retain their memories. The writers of the text would have and do suggest quite the opposite, because they were living in a time where they were consistently attacked by little bone warriors from
I like how it wrote inconsistently, like it has the word written wrong in there.
from evil necromancers. So the purpose of texts like the Book of Scared Villagers was to actually sway public opinion towards the side of there not being anything left of their loved ones who are now presently banging on their door with swords and shields and trying to get inside and burn their home down. If even for a moment during the time that these texts were written, you believe that, hey, that might be your mother, hey, then you're lost. You're lost. You're done. And so the majority of data within these texts suggests that no, there are no memories left within the skeletal body. And it's important to remember that the writer of the Book of Skeletor is Skeletor, a wizard skeleton who, even though he may allude to having memories from the past, there's a magical element at play beyond just simple necromancy. So if your castle or your home is being sieged by a skeleton, you can feel safe in saying that, hey, it's not them. And the fit for this video has been Sailor Moon, the one and only.
That's really good. That's basically McClellan bullshit. Like that's how you do that. That's amazing. Who did that? That's good.
Because McClellan lost weight. Yeah, looks like. Oh, the fit has been. Anyway, you want random B tier feminism from TikTok, or do you want weird AI?
What would you consider as A tier feminism?
Yeah,
that is an amazing question.
Yeah, what is it? I mean, it's Andrea Dworkin.
Is that A tier feminism? There's
She's the best.
What was her name? We used to like her. The Rational Feminist. What was her name? Christina Hoff Summers.
Hoff Summers?
Yeah. Well, that's because like Christina Hoff Summers and
Janice Fiamingo.
They say like, well, yeah, we're feminists. Like they're feminists in the like 1950s. Like, no, we think that if women want to drive cars and fly airplanes and be accountants, they should be allowed to, like, and it's like, yeah, they are feminists, but like they're a feminism that is just not even part of the conversation anymore. Like it's not even, they're like a feminism that's not even in debate anymore.
They're a feminism that if you ask them, does your feminism include black women? They say, what are you talking about? It includes women.
Here we can jump on to something sort of political, which is something Flip always will rant on, but it also ties back to what people think the Mormons should do with their money, which this is what would happen with their money.
Shots perfectly capture the biggest problem with Democratic economic policy. I say this as someone who has voted Democrat for the last 20 years with a PhD in economics, who's worked for the Federal Reserve, the Securities and Exchange Commission, has had published research.
You have a PhD in economics and you vote Democrat?
So the first screenshot is a
All
tweet
right.
that basically
Well, he's come to the real world a little bit.
he says, let's pass a wealth tax, and we're just going to take money that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos just simply don't need. And publicly, it sounds great. I mean, someone who has $100 billion obviously doesn't need anywhere close to that. And meanwhile, there are people who are homeless, there are people who are starving. That from an economic perspective, the marginal benefit of an extra $1 or $100 million to Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos is minimal compared to what $100 million should be able to do for low-income people. But what makes me upset is that it's all performative, right? And they don't actually even care if what they're doing works. So here, California had taken $24 billion over 5 years to help with the homelessness crisis. Homelessness actually got dramatically worse over that period. But here's what's crazy. But they didn't even attempt to measure it. So either they knew it wouldn't work, and so they set this up so they could have plausible deniability, or they just simply don't care. And then you see some of these numbers where they're spending like $80,000, I think, per homeless person on services per year. And it's just like, where's that money going? Like, who is this going to? Because clearly it's not the homeless people, because with $80,000 a year, you could afford an apartment even in California. Is that a lot of this money is just going to their own wealthy donors, right? And it's going in the form of like no bid contracts or big business owners who are making their own money that are providing services but are taking an enormous cut, and that none of this money that is getting taxed is actually going to people who need it. So if you had a policy that was like, take money from billionaires, from people who don't need it, and you're actually going to fund homelessness education, and you're going to measure and see if these policies work, then great. But that's not actually what happens a lot of times. And the Republicans have their own problems, right? I'm doing it more to grifters who are pretending to provide war services, right? Like spending $100 per nail that gets shipped off to, a foreign country in a war. But it feels like with Democrats, if you have two wealth levels and one is low income and one is, let's say, moderate income, they would rather have a policy that brings this person down and closes the gap rather than bringing everybody up if that gap gets bigger.
So,
or
like,
even worse, if it's like
is this
they
just like
rather bring
the
somebody
guy
down
coming out
that
as
does
conservative?
nothing for the people?
Pretty much.
Like, I mean, does it, like, 'cause he's just saying, like, hey, fellow Democrats, here's a little bit of reality, but it's like, but those are just conservative talking points, guy.
Yeah, but that's what usually happens when you look at the numbers of the things that actually happen. But it brings up the point that Jordan Peterson always brought up from the well, you could call it the Orwellian point from the road to Wigan Pier, is that most commies only care about cutting down the rich. They do not care about helping the poor. You know, all those sorts of ideas. Like, you can see people just gnashing their teeth about the money the church has, but I guarantee you, if somehow that money got liquidated into supposedly something out there, which is one of the things you can say about the church, is that they genuinely say, we're trying to figure out how to spend it so it will work in that way that you want it to work, because there's not those different NGOs that you want us to dump the money into aren't getting it to the place that you want it to go to. That's the problem with them. Like 95% of those things are overhead. They don't go to the people, and you want us to dump that money off, which not only is it, you know, the billions that they have, it isn't liquid. So they'd have to liquidate it. So they take it out of what's being used for other people's funding, because that's what it's doing. It's just inside of other people's funding. It's what other people's wages
I actually
are.
kind of wondered, like, you know, like if they did that thing, you know, where they're like, oh, we spent $80,000, you know, California spent $80,000 a year on the homeless. It's like, okay, what if, like, instead of giving $80,000 of money for homeless services, they just gave you and me and Jared, we each got $80,000 with the instruction that we had to spend $40,000 of it on homelessness? I bet we would do a better job.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
I mean, just handing. So I mentioned it last week, but what's his face? Scott Adams has this great thing at the beginning of every episode where he brings up a scientific study and he says, I could have saved you a lot of time if you asked me this, because the answer to your study is fucking obvious. And that's what I think about this. I'm like, I could have saved you guys a lot of time and money if you asked me, hey, Jared, do you think that do you think that throwing $80,000 at a bunch of mentally ill drug addicts is going to be helpful? I would say, well, no, I don't. Plus, like, even if it was helpful, the majority of it is going to get caught up in bureaucracy anyway.
For sure. It just doesn't go where you want it to go. And I hear divas often say that the church should dump all that money into these supposed NGOs that do good. No, they don't. They don't.
It's like the batshit claim that, like, you could solve world hunger with just $14 billion. Like, knowing nothing about the calculations you made, I can tell you no. I can just
It'd be lunch for everybody once.
Yeah, what are you talking? Like, what are you even saying? Like, you just buying food for everybody indefinitely? Because no, $14 billion.
That wouldn't even last that long.
No.
Leslie and Troy both bring up Camille Paglia. Yeah, Camille Paglia had some real shit. But yeah, the NGOs don't do what they say they're gonna do. Like, every time I go to, like, those different stores where they ask you and they kind of make it awkward at that South Park moment where you're supposed to donate to something and you're put on the spot. And I'm like, no, I don't want to donate to those things, because I know the money just goes to the CEO of the place. That's the only place.
Dude, I've gotten so callous with that now. It's just like, it's like when they first started rolling out that thing where the barista turns around the fucking iPad and it says, like, do you want a tip? It used to be super awkward. And a couple times I did it because it was so awkward. Now I'm just like, they can be staring me in the eyes and I'll just hit no. Like, I don't fucking care anymore. And the same with, like, I'll go through the Taco Bell drive-thru because I'm fat. And as soon as I get done, they're like, would you like to round up to the nearest dollar to donate to our scholarship program? I'm like, no. And then that's it. Like, I don't care anymore. By the way, those are my favorite.
If I could give $1 to a kid to dissuade him from going to college, I would.
Yeah, I know. When I worked at Wendy's, we had that thing too. Like, we had some charities that we would have to ask people to donate to. And those were my favorite people that just said no, because I hated the whole, like, nobody wants to donate to that because they know it's bullshit. They all know it's bullshit. But they're kind of guilted into it. And most of the people that say no say, no, thank you. Or, like, no, it's not a thank you. It's just no. Just, you're not thanking me for asking you for money for bullshit. Just say no. Or, like, not this time. You're going to say that next time too. So just say no. I love the guys that say no.
They had some recent UBI studies, and a bunch of people were touting them all over X, Twitter, and TikTok. I think I brought it up here, but they gave this group of people like $1,000 a month or something like that, and said, look how much better they're doing across this amount of time. And it actually saved us, well, we saved $650,000, even though the program itself cost $8 million. So it's a negative 7.5 whatever. But they don't mention in that thing that you can look up in the exact same study that they had a control group, and guess who did better? The control group that did not get the UBI money. The control group that didn't get the money did better than the UBI group that did just get like $1,000 a month or something like that. And that's a situation where they actually just did give money to people and not just money that just got dumped off to some CEO from the NGO somewhere. Those benefits and charities are such horseshit. And it's so funny because like if you like look at like the degrees and different stuff that people get nowadays coming out of like all those Brown universities, I actually see a lot of them because there's very rich people that come to my place and they get put in as members, and they kind of have to like pass off like what their CVs are to say what they are, and they have these degrees that are like environmental accountant. Like they have these degrees that are the same old thing you always knew, but it's got some sort of, just like my certification is now called CHRM inclusion. All the degrees now from those places have some sort of tacked on ESG word to them, like environmental something or altruistic. This, like they have that tacked into their degrees, and I guarantee you, all they're doing is still just making the same money that they were always making, and not dumping any of it off to the places that you imagine they're dumping it off to. It's just a great big grift and a lie. But that's what comes out. I mean, there's so many people upset about Matt Walsh's movie and all that stuff, saying that he's exposed these absolute grifters. They say, how did he get in? How did he get in to talk to these people? Do you know how he got in to talk to them? Like how did they give him that?
There's shelter. Well, money.
Money. All they did is offer him money, and they took it. And they got everything.
Yeah, Robin DiAngelo is $15,000. That's so fucking hilarious. She gets $15,000 to tell white people they're racist for thinking that like they don't want black people in their neighborhoods, which most white people don't think. It's just Robin projecting her own racist bullshit onto all white people. Like, we're all pretty fucking racist. We all hate them Negroes, don't we? Right? Like it sucks when one of them moves in across the street from you. No, Robin, it doesn't. Why do you think that I think that, you horrid bitch?
Yeah.
I really wonder with her, like, does she actually think that, or is she just a conscious fraud?
I think
really
she's
wonder.
To some degree. So I rewatching that whole Trump's best comeback thing that I did a couple weeks ago, and just kind of realizing like, oh, that's why people like him. He's speaking to these people the way they deserve to be spoken to. He's treating them like shit because they deserve to be treated like shit.
Yeah,
That's the thing I think about Robin DiAngelo. Like, a bunch of people are bringing up controversy with this Matt Walsh documentary, and I disagree with Matt Walsh on a lot of shit. Like he terrifies me on his vigilante justice bullshit and his capital punishment bullshit. I think he would be an authoritarian nightmare if he were ever in charge of anything. But this, like, I'm looking at this, and I'm like, no, he's treating Robin DiAngelo like shit, and she should be treated like shit.
Yeah. Whether she believes it genuinely or she's a conscious fraud, she needs to be.
But one of the things Matt Walsh said from this whole thing is like they realized she had no clue. Like, he could just use his direct name with her. She had no sense of who he was at all. She's just in her own little bubble. Never probably gets pushed back on anything ever. And that's what those worlds are. They're able to insulate themselves entirely from any sort of criticism anywhere. And we already know from all the critical theories in the world, any sort of criticism is just hate. It's just trolls. It's not real criticism. I even saw on Twitter and X today, people just saying outright, like, these guys never supported BLM. They're terrible. And you're like, you seriously are still holding on to the BLM thing? Like, how do you not know that BLM 100% just grifted off all the money and just bought mansions with it and dumped the money into stuff? I actually learned about that stuff long before the Summer of Love because I saw some different black people talk about how they didn't get any of the money that they promised them. I saw some black people on the internet, on Twitter, talking about the Ferguson stuff, that they collected money for them, and they said they did not pass this money on to us. None of us got any of it. Mm-hmm.
There's like a famous clip of Michael Brown's parents saying like, they didn't do
They didn't
anything.
give anything. They didn't
We
give
didn't
him a
do
cent. Not one red cent. Leslie says, Taco Bell always asks if I wanted to donate to help kids graduate from high school. I say, I work as a high school teacher. I've been helping kids all day long. Just give me my food.
Yeah, what the fuck do you think money is going to do to help kids graduate from high school? Also, like,
Yeah.
that's another. It's crazy to me that anti-capitalists always seem to think that if you throw money at a problem, it's going to fix the problem.
Yeah.
The reason our kids aren't graduating school is because we're not funded enough.
Morgan wants B-tier feminism. You want to
She's
see
ready.
some more feminist clips?
She's tired of us. She's ready for some feminism.
Where's the feminism, man? I was promised some feminism. This gal, I don't know what she says here, but she's always good for something. Oh, no, this is just a random chick. Hold on. Oh, here's one. Come on. Present, share screen. You wanted some feminism? Here comes some feminism.
Over the last month, and Mormonism has been in the spotlight over the last month in two different ways, and the complete opposite. So I want to talk about them. The first is Ballerina Farm. Many of you guys have heard about this, the highly influential TikToker account that is like trad wife to the max. She's beautiful, has 1 million kids. They live on a homestead. It's like the perfect trad wife experience. So much of it is wrapped up into Mormon rhetoric about how a woman should be at home with her kids, etc. There was an article that came out about Ballerina Farm that didn't point Mormonism and being a Mormon woman in the best light. A lot of us, including me, were triggered by reading this article and remembering what it's like to be a Mormon woman, to be required to pop out children and stay at home and lose our identity entirely to this family context. It is what we were born and raised to do. And yet she
what identity? Like what? The identity that is better is to be a, I don't know, like a
An
purchaser in a
accountant.
cubicle, an accountant in a cubicle. Like, what's the identity outside of that you're getting that's so important?
Yeah.
I know you're not all going and becoming Gloria Steinem.
You know, like how many people do you ask? Like, what would you? How would you describe your identity? How many men say like, oh, you know, an accountant?
Yeah.
What is wrong with the identity of a mother? The identity of a mother is not even saying this in the Mormon aspect, saying this in the worldly human aspect.
Yeah.
A mother is an awesome identity. Like,
Yeah. Good
like
for
it's
you.
a good mother is the best identity in the world.
Responded after this article came out on their TikTok channel and said this was not representative of how it actually is. I love being a mother. I love being able to do these things, and I totally have choices. But I'm less interested in her
Choices, like what choices?
personal response and much more in the response of all of the Mormon women who felt the need to defend her. I saw so many defenses in her lifestyle, her choices, the fact that she has as many choices as she wants to have in her life.
Making millions and millions of dollars doing her trad life stuff.
And she chose to be this trad wife, pop out 1 million kids, and stay at home with her kids. Okay, great. She has choices. Awesome. We love a
And is a major money making influencer.
woman who has choices. And if Mormon women want to say that they have choices, that's great. Enter The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Some of you might have seen this on Hulu. And I think it's so interesting to contrast the discussion about Ballerina Farm with The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Both of these were Mormon contexts, right? Both of them claim Mormonism in some way. And yet with Ballerina Farm, we had a lot of Mormon people, a lot of Mormon women saying, no, you got it totally wrong. She does have choices and she's just choosing the trad wife experience. But then you go over to the other side of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives and they're saying, oh, no, that does not actually represent us. Those women making those choices, those are not the choices that we make. And so I guess to me, I'm just confused. Which one is it? Do you get to make choices other than the trad wife experience? Do you get to make those choices? Because these
What's the difference? Alcohol?
I know what choices do these. What choices does this line of thinking extend to? Like, oh, you think just because I make the choice to be a serial killer doesn't mean it means that I'm not a Mormon anymore? It's like, well, kind of. I mean, like, fuck.
Women
Like,
appear
it,
on
no,
TikTok.
like, it turns out that there's actually some latitude within
Mom
Mormon.
talk, they
Go
call it,
figure.
are making choices. They're making choices for their lives. Maybe ones that don't make the church look amazing or like they want to be made out to be. These
And those choices were always there.
women are not trad wives, right? Like they're decidedly not the trad wife experience. And yet I have seen post and post over and over of Mormon women who are saying, this does not represent me. This has nothing to do with Mormonism. These women are not me. So which one is it? Which one is it? Do they have choices? Is Ballerina Farm actually choosing what she's doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh.
You chose that.
Or Does she not actually have choices, and she just has that as the only option? Because it's
That's her only option.
Oh no!
This is like a $400 million
life. Where
Like,
I have all money and opulence and all the things that people desire. Oh, I didn't choose this.
Seems like with the reaction to the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives that I'm seeing, this trad wife is the only option. This is the only option. And if you choose other than that, if you choose to be a mom talk influencer, whatever, that is not representative of Mormonism. You are dead to me. That it has been so interesting to see that contrast.
My next
Sweet Moses, man.
I always love the ex-Mormon. I thought I had free agency thing. It's like it strikes me as Randy Marsh saying, "I thought this was America." You know, anytime he does something illegal.
America.
Yeah, no, this is perfectly Randy Marsh. Anytime he does something like terrible and illegal, and he gets arrested for it, he's like, "I thought I was free," or whatever. That's the same thing with this ex-Mormon shit, where they're like, "Well, Mormonism says we have free agency," but they also say that if we choose to swing and drink and apostatize against the church, they'll kick us out, which doesn't sound like they think we have free agency. It's like, no, they're saying that you can choose to do the right things or the wrong things.
Yeah.
They're not saying that there is no right and wrong. Somehow you interpreted that as being that way.
I think they understand the consequences of behavior every time they ban somebody from one of their groups. Like, it's so weird. Like, they understand the concept then, like when it's them in charge. Then they suddenly just get it. Like, no, there's standards, and you're welcome to not have the standards, but here we have these standards.
I'm gonna kill myself after this TikTok, aren't I?
Probably.
I can already tell.
My assistant at work, she's who I got Charlie Dog from, because she breeds dogs and breeds a lot of stuff because she runs a whole entire farm.
Wait,
and
you mean she controls dogs' bodies and literally just uses them?
Yeah.
As wombs?
Adopt, don't shop. Yeah, I need a pit bull that'll maul my toddler to death. All right.
She runs an entire farm and she has a kid and lives a trad life just kind of as a normal person, like just as somebody who does all that stuff. And I guarantee you, if that other stuff paid off enough, she would quit the job with me in a millisecond.
Hell yeah.
Like, that's just where she gets like the insurance and some extra income and stuff like that. But it's in her way. It's in her way of the stuff she wants to be doing. She wants to be doing the farm and her kid all day. That's where she would prefer to be.
It's like these feminists are looking at the like 2% of people that actually do something for their work that they're passionate about, while the rest of us just kind of like, I mean, I don't mind my job. It's fine. I'm grateful for it. I wouldn't do it in my free time, but
no, she would quit. I think she likes it. I give her a lot of latitude. She, because she has to go suddenly, like, has some crazy situation with the horse that suddenly has some sort of horse thing that I can't even, say, because like those horses have problems all the time, and she's got to run because like there's suddenly like a medical emergency with a horse. I totally let her go do it and all that sorts of deal. But she would rather be there. She would rather be there, 100%, all day, every day.
Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and I actually want to touch on something that I haven't seen anyone else really make a video about, because I think that this really actually should be talked about, because they are so right. And I'm not saying there isn't any videos on this already. I just personally haven't seen any, so I think it needs to be talked about. And just to list off some of my credentials before anyone tries to come at me, I did grow up Mormon. I've read the Book of Mormon multiple times. I graduated from seminary. I spoke in state conference. I spoke in my wards who knows how many times.
Do we still need to like give like the Mormon CV nowadays? Like, is that
really like credential? I spoke at church. Yeah, that's not a credential. We have to do that. Like most people fucking dread it. Also, I hate the phrase. I really think this has to be talked about, because it only ever precedes the most retarded statement you've ever heard of. I think it really needs to be talked about, this thing in Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. No, it doesn't. This show could just not exist, and nothing would be any worse.
Well, there's also the whole thing where it's like, people talk about this shit all the time. Like,
you're not going to say something new. I promise you're not. But
nobody ever talks about how patriarchy affects women.
You've landed on it. It's brand new right here.
I've sang in church. I have done everything. Okay,
You
I have been
sang
the
in a
moral
church?
president, the Beehive president, the My May president. I know I didn't do those in order, and I don't care.
That's another thing that I always say, just with the ex-Mormons and all that sort of stuff. Like when the Mormons told me and tell me that I never believed right, my upsetness to that is this much. Zero. Like
Yeah,
I go like,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
probably. like maybe it never grabbed me quite as much as it grabbed you. That's probably true.
Okay, those are just a list of my credentials. I found it very interesting that the church put a statement out saying, hey, like this is not an accurate representation of what the LDS Church, Mormon Church is. I'm calling bullshit because something that I think that they hit right nail on the head there was the fact that women in the church are raised to be mothers, wives, and homemakers. That is our entire purpose, and that is our only purpose in the Mormon Church. Don't worry, they don't say that you can't have a career as a woman. They just say that if you do have a career, that should be the last thing on your list.
Like,
that should be
but
the
like,
last
what
thing
else is there? Like, you can do like the whole mom life and have a career. So what else are you not getting? Just church leadership? Like you want to run the pyramid scheme? Is that
Fine, you can have it. I don't care. Let's switch it
Onto
around.
school, all of that doesn't matter as much as it does being a wife, a mother, and a homemaker. And if that is what you want for your life, I am not here to shame that. That is great. That is fantastic. That is wonderful for you.
But if there was somebody on TikTok saying that that's what they want, you would tell them that they have internalized misogyny and they're only doing it because they're forced into it and that's not a real choice.
Well, you know that I heard a couple people complaining about that saying recently that no success outside of the home can make up for failure inside the home, and like that, like complaining about that as if it's the wrong thing to say. I'm like, no, that's a profound thing to say. Actually, I will stand behind that shit. Like you can, and that's the archetype of every like 90s Disney movie ever is the dad who cares more about success outside the house than inside the house. And then by the end of the movie, he realizes that he was totally off and that he needs to give up his $200 million whatever to keep his still pretty decent job so he can spend more time with his son. Or, oh, I haven't been playing catch. Yeah, no amount, like no yacht that you buy will make up for failing your son. Absolutely, I stand by that.
For me, like the central message that I got out of the story mode of Grand Theft Auto 5 is that in the end, the only thing that has is of any value is your family. You know,
Yeah.
like, and it's a game that's all about just just avarice and the acquisition of wealth at any cost. But, like, if you play the whole story,
That's what
like,
I learned from the
that
Fast
actual-
and Furious series.
Family.
Family. Yeah, that's totally true. That clip that Anthony Miller shared, that one with Trevor Noah and Simon Sinek, they talked about when you have success, you talk about all the sacrifices you make, but you need to stop and think, who did you really sacrifice? Because you did sacrifice people in that. And there's some truth to that. Like if you're going to be some type of successful person, you're going to neglect and ignore other people. And if those people were your kids or something like that, I'm sure that'll haunt you. It'll haunt you later.
Some of us, that's not necessarily what we really wanted or saw ourselves doing in our future. I have loved seeing.
But so many people working shit jobs, 99% of them didn't see that job as what they were doing with their future either.
The internet put Zach on blast for how he treats his wife, because that is exactly how most Mormon men treat their wives. That's exactly how we are raised, so that we can be
Christ,
submissive
woman.
and
Oh
think
my
that
God.
type of behavior is okay, but it's not okay. And the main reason why I wanted to bring this up is because it does not just affect the women who are in the Mormon religion. Because church and state in Utah are not separated, it unfortunately affects all the women who are not Mormon as well. And this ties into the entire point of my account. Domestic violence.
Oh.
Domestic violence is a huge issue here in Utah, and it's something that is seen as okay.
What?
Because it is.
Oh, it's okay.
That is a fresh take. I have not heard that take.
No, I
that
actually
that
have
domestic
not heard
violence
that.
is okay. Like you yeah.
Wait,
Yeah, no, I'm actually thinking
Why
about it right
would
now.
domestic violence be okay?
I have not heard that take. I've not
I'm-
heard that take.
I'm actually, she's right though. I'm actually thinking about it right now. I can't think of his. I'm thinking of all the Mormon men I know, and every single one of them. If I said I've actually been beating the shit out of my wife, they'd be like, "That's fine." Like
no,
That's
all of
that
them,
scene
right?
is okay. You know that. You know that
No, it's
scene is
okay. Everybody knows that's okay. Like, everybody knows, like, if a woman calls the police and says, "My boyfriend is threatening me," they go, "That's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, I
Call
thought
us
you
when
had.
you have a real problem,
Yeah, I
lady."
thought you had an actual issue.
Yeah. Did somebody steal your catalytic converter? That's what matters.
Is he black? Because we hate those guys for sure. We're the police.
That's one of the things. Like,
Are you ordering an execution? Like, if you're ordering execution against an African American, that's a different story, lady. But if some guy is hitting you, that's okay.
Yeah, I saw some definition of like patriarchy theory, and it said something like it's a societal setup that gives men the power. I'm like, gives men, it gives it to them. Like, who's giving? Who's the one giving there?
Thanks for the power.
I must be the same ones giving the okay for the domestic violence.
I'm just
the
picturing.
They,
I spent a lot of.
Go ahead.
I spend a lot of time. Oh, that meme will pop up into my head. That's the withered Wojak and the bitch female Wojak being like, "Okay, honey, it's time to acknowledge all the privilege you have." And she's like, "Yes, honey." I picture that all the time, and when people tell me how great society is for men right now, I just think of that because I'm getting to the point where I'll walk around and I'll feel lucky that like I have a woman in my life who cares about me, like and isn't just married to me, but actually cares about me. That's a big deal. And because I've seen so many Mormon marriages where the woman just treats the husband with contempt. But even outside of that, like I'll just go to get food and I'll see some like pimply, skinny, awkward 17-year-old boy asking me like what I want to eat. And in my mind, I was just like, nobody cares about you. I'm sorry, man. Just nobody fucking cares. And they never will. Nobody's coming to save you.
You are the ghost on Homath's scale. You are a cannon fodder. You are.
And I feel for you, man.
That we are in. It doesn't always mean that the man is physically abusing her, but the emotional abuse and the not treating her as an individual, that's something that is very common here. It's something I see every single day, unfortunately. Domestic violence can never be taken seriously here because it's something that is seen as okay here.
Okay, in this whole series, in the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, who committed domestic violence?
Well, it's the control factor, Jared, and it's
Taylor.
Okay.
Taylor's the only person in the series who has committed domestic violence.
She hit. Oh yeah, she hit.
Yeah, she threw a fucking chair at her kid because she
right.
was in a drunken rage. All right, and you guys seem to forget that. You guys seem to not give a fuck that she committed domestic violence, not against just her fiance or boyfriend or whatever, but against her child. Whether or not it was an accident, I don't know. But like, don't throw heavy objects.
Your child as an individual.
It wasn't some sort of scripted part of a show either. That was part of their lives that happened 8 months before the show and is on police records.
And also, none of this has to do with the domestic violence. And anytime they're talking about the men being controlling and possessive, it's because they didn't want to be. They didn't want their wives to go to a strip club. That's so reasonable, and they overreacted. I probably when the wives did go to the strip club, they should say, "Okay, we need to have a serious talk." But then they went off like, "I can't be married to you because your character is so terrible." It's, I guess, a bit of an overreaction. You can have some charity or whatever, but I don't blame them for being mad. They said, "Don't go to this place." The wives said, "Okay." The wives went to the place anyway, and of course you're going to be mad. Like, and every single one of the cast, when the husbands were getting mad about that, they're like, well, damn, they're being really controlling. Even though leading up to that, the girls that knew they were going to the strip club were saying, oh, your husbands are going to kill us when they find out what we're doing. So you know you're doing a thing that's going to fracture a marriage, you sack of shit friend.
Yeah. I'll share this one instead of that. Was a Mormon therapist who just said that all these women are choosing other stuff than the Mormon life. She's just a Mormon therapist who's there for all the Mormon girls, and I guess more of the Longhouse. She's there for that, for them making different decisions with their lives nowadays because they didn't have those options before.
Guys, the problem with Drew's content is not that she's like mean to men and now she's marrying a man. Women do need a little bit of that collie energy, like the capacity to be for men. Wrong with encouraging women to have a healthy connection with that part of themselves. Where it goes wrong is encouraging women to have an excess of like hypercritical, mean energy towards men, and also retaining this mindset that if a man does the exact same thing back to them, that's evil, oppressive misogyny. Because that's how you create one of these. Depending on the context, you're a boss bitch and inconsequential, incompetent little dick men can't say anything to you. Or they have to say the right things because of how much systemic power they hold over your head. It's like, pick one. Like, y'all can't be Schrodinger's victims. It's so played out, bro. Either it's all up for grabs or none of it is. Y'all can't keep talking shit.
Schrodinger's victim.
Again, there's nothing wrong with being mean to men. I'm mean to men. I'm mean to women. I'm mean to myself. I think if you can make fun of it, make fun of it. But when you tell a group of people that anybody critiquing them is evil, and that whatever they're doing is actually standing up to evil, they now need to live in that echo chamber to have their egos validated. For some of these women, it's not even a double standard anymore. It's just the ego and the standard are exactly the same. For any man who would ever critique me or my behaviors or my ideology is necessarily an awful man, because no true Scotsman will call me on my obvious entitlement. Hey.
Yeah. Anyway, there's more feminisms, but we're running out of time, running low. We can end on I don't know what. Here's a guy who quit his job to make Christian music.
Oh boy.
Oh goddamn.
Oh, we couldn't get Marnie on today, could we?
Oh yeah.
That would have been good.
She's
She
doesn't
have her
really
on
have a
soon.
space to talk.
Yeah, I know, because she had a great topic, but
Yeah.
Sitting on my porch, drinking iced tea, waiting for Jesus to come back. Jesus, where you at?
Oh fuck.
Sitting on my porch, drinking iced tea, waiting for Jesus to come back. Jesus, where you at?
That was just so abrupt.
oh man, remember it's funny because like 3,000 years ago in like ancient Greek drama comedy times, like, you know, if you were gonna tell a joke, you'd had to take 3 hours. Like you'd have to get people around and all that. So like in the modern era, that's all you need now. It's just that little meme. It's just a little 5 seconds. Like, oh, all right, we get it. Moving on. What is Jesus?
There's some creepy AI cats.
Oh man, the AI is so unsettled. I could watch it. I could watch it for hours, though. I'm not even kidding.
Man,
I love the
I think in the Lobsters group, somebody posted like the AI of like combining funerals with like chips and dip.
Yeah.
And like the first time I watched it, I laughed harder than I have laughed in years. And then I went back and watched it again. I'm like, oh god, it's just weird.
No, it makes me like watching AI shit makes me believe in a human soul because I'm like, oh my god, this stuff feels like it's art that just lacks a soul, and that's why it intrigues. It creeps me the fuck out.
Yeah, it's crazy, but I don't know. Sooner or later, we're gonna see like full movies with that sort of stuff, and the imagery is gonna be wild.
Yeah.
Tell you what.
Yeah. Wait, what's this one? Is this one?
Yeah, it's just rapping.
Oh, it's AI rap.
Like rapping presidents. Or...
Now, there's a bunch of AI things of like presidents and
Here's a
world
girl
leaders
from-
committing petty crimes and shit. Oh god, these ones are so terrible, but I love them. Like,
yeah, I can't
I'm
watch
not even
that.
kidding you. This is
Oh,
what,
Jesus! Oh,
I'm not kidding. This is what my dreams look like.
What is
They
happening?
really do, man. You got.
I'm not.
you got
No,
scary
it's
dreams.
if I like close my eyes and just let my mind go, it's just insane shit like this. It just
Serious?
goes up. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
god!
my mind didn't do stuff like that. What do you type into the AI to make that happen?
I have no idea. But there's always in these ones. There's always eggs and smoke.
Yeah, what's with that?
Weird.
Here's a
And
cuter. Here's a
Oh
cuter one.
man. What the fuck?
Did you ever watch unedited footage of a bear on Adult Swim?
No.
Oh yeah. Wait, I have a vague memory.
I'm not gonna tell you what it is. I'm just gonna send it to you, and you should watch it because that's the
Yeah.
closest to the amount of creepy that that humans can get to AI.
Well, at least you can know from the guys over at Bill Gates' future stuff that they're programming their morality into this stuff. So don't be bad
Thank
for it.
God.
I'm so relieved. So important.
Anyway,
They're in control.
stay positive, everybody.
Alrighty. Did we do it?
I think we done did it.
Alrighty.
We
Let's
done
do
did
it some more in a week when the more stupids happens.
It'll happen.
Okay, well, hang on.
Wait,
First,
you got one?
can I make a guess? If D-Vase watches this whole thing, what do you think the video is going to be like?
Oh,
Well, welcome to Mormon News Roundup here today. Today I'm going to be covering a little bit of this podcast. It's called the Porch Time Podcast. Now, if you look at here, they've got about 300.
Not even a real
subscribers,
news
and so it's probably the only podcast here that's struggling even more than this podcast. But they seem to talk a lot of shit about me.
I imagined we were going to talk a lot more about Divas today than we did, but on the same time, there's not really that. I guess there's not that much to
Before
say.
clips is fake interview with Bill Real and
Yeah, but I mean, it's just because, like, first of all, because I didn't realize how much he was cranking out, but also just
that
like
Divas that you're going up in the world if we're starting to notice and gripe about you.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, man, you want to catch up to John DeLynn and Bill Real?
Yeah, you got a long ways to go to say
If we
something.
start
Anything
if we start bitching about you, that means you're on
Divas,
your way.
okay, Divas said that he had his longtime assistant quit on him because he said that Trump was a convicted felon, so she quit on him. Whoever she is, hey, come check us out.
Well, he said that she said in response that Biden showered with his granddaughter, and he said, well, I actually looked that up, and it seems like that's actually there's no substantial evidence to support that. And I was like, well, except her diary, right? Isn't that where it comes from?
There's a verified diary that comes out of
Joe Biden has not confirmed the allegations, so that's
yeah.
But yeah, he also mentioned that Trump got convicted as a rapist by a judge or something like that, which isn't true. He got held liable on a sheet that also said that no, he did not commit rape on the affidavit or whatever they signed at the end of the thing.
Yeah.
But was held liable because he talked shit about her afterwards. But Divas, if you think Trump raped E. Jean Carroll, I have a Book of Mormon to sell you.
That's the thing, though. Like the thing, though, I've learned.
It means
about,
he probably also believed Christine Blasey Ford.
This is the thing, though, I've learned about the Divases and Jacobs and Cardins of the world, because these guys all talk like, "Oh, I'll debate anybody. I'll take any comer." I'm like, no, you won't. You guys are full of shit. You guys won't take on anybody who actually has a chance. Like, you guys were very careful. You're all doing the same game. Like, really is kind of interesting how they all are kind of playing just like, yeah, like it's all the same tactics. It's all optics. You know, they all use the same dirty tactics. Oh well.
Or most real challenges or somebody could challenges like held at a distance or something like that. But,
yeah, totally.
Most Divas stuff. I mean, I think some of it I appreciate. Like I like that Michelle Stone thing that he put out. I mean, I watch a bunch of his stuff, and then he was objective about Jacob's thing. I mean, yeah, he's got some good stuff that he puts out. Then some of it too, and some of it, like I don't know. I kind of try to hint around like the Boomer Truth Regime stuff, but yeah, it's kind of just square in that level of we've graduated to Blue Church now, and now we're on Blue Church team. and a lot of the arguments come from the blue church thing. You know, we should be giving the money to the poor. So I'm like, okay, and what else? I mean, I think that's probably his biggest gripe. The money should go to the poor, and I don't know what else. I mean, I guess he wants to take on Jacob's debate, but I think those debates that he's framed out are kind of easy debates, which is probably why Jacob's not going to take them, because the other people who he does say that he would take those debates with aren't going to take them either. And
because it's a stupid premise.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see those debates happening or ever coming around. It'd be nice if somebody did. But
okay, there's part of the problem is like when Jacob laid out his challenge, he keeps moving the goalpost. He's never actually just laid out a simple challenge and left it alone. You know, like if you just
we'd have to see if that one ever got taken up. I mean, Divas is trying to take it, but I don't see how he wouldn't.
I saw so many people answer Jacob's call for debate, and he just ignores them. Not just me, lots of people.
These are two different premises, right? Like the one with Dives was the premise of the temple construction helps poverty.
Yeah, is that gonna? So that debate's not gonna happen.
Oh no, it's not
it won't happen. But if it did, Jacob would broaden the premise, or just immediately move towards religion in general is what helps poverty, not temples specifically.
There's some tricky ways you can do it, but which then you could say like, okay, let's say Mormons still did all their religious shit but didn't build temples. Would they help poverty less or more? Anyway, the other premise, the premise I'm more interested in people taking up is there a naturalistic explanation for the Book of Mormon?
Joseph wrote it.
Yeah, no, that's the thing.
Debate over.
I don't.
That's the naturalistic explanation. Like
he wrote it, and I just outright reject this whole idea that it's too complex for somebody to write. Especially like one of the arguments they use is, how did he come up with a complex money system just off the top of his head that works? I was like, what? Okay, here you go. My unit are shmoomoms, and 5 shmoomoms equals 1 shalom, and 2 shaloms equals 1 stumom. And I just came up with a money system. It's not complex. Don't call it complex, because the money system we have right now in America isn't
I just
complex.
Googled it. I found an old money that was called a stumom, and that's close enough. So you got it.
Whoa, I found it came from God.
Yeah, but on that whole flip end of stuff too, I agree with Jacob's end of stuff that if somebody doesn't believe all that sorts of stuff and goes around trying to yoink it away from the Mormons, they probably shouldn't be in that club.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm very wary with how I approach this, because Jacob had asked me if I wanted to do some videos with him, and I don't really know what to do, because we attack, because he's like, well, I know you like attacking John DeLynn. I'm like, I don't know, we attack John DeLynn from very different angles, and of course we're both very much against the woke shit, so I guess there's that. But I don't know. I'm just
the woke shit, and then there's just kind of like a general thing of like, hey, atheists, like the secular humanism thing doesn't have thriving as figured out as long-term traditions do.
Well, yeah,
and
that's why
that's not like, it doesn't mean that okay, well then those things are suddenly all their truth claims are true. It just means there's a lot to hold on to or figure out or do better to improve upon or take note of, that sort of stuff. But
well, yeah, that's just why I feel frozen when it comes to this stuff, because I'm like, I don't know. I see Jacob's debate premise of the naturalistic explanations, and I'm like, that's a layup of a debate. People write books all the time. The Book of Mormon isn't nearly as complex as you say it is. That's the naturalistic explanation, and it's easy. But also, I don't actually really want to talk people out of the Book of Mormon, because so many of them become fucking swingers and stuff. And I'm like, I just keep believing it, and I'm not going to talk you out of it.
They just become blue churchy, and blue church to me is more annoying than Mormonism.
Oh yeah, for a lot.
it's at least as destructive, if not more.
Yeah.
Like at least as much.
Yes. So, and I don't have a good answer of how to steer people away from Blue Church because we are just dozens of us, and our channel's not growing. We don't know how to grow it. I guess we could do better. We could put out more shorts. We could do more little 10-minute videos. We could check our algorithms and our titles and not say the bad words and
let's say all the things about our competitors.
Yeah, did you just give up on removing retard from your vocabulary?
I did until they released that retard show, and now I don't have any other way to talk about the retard show. The retarded wives.
How could I talk about secret lives of Mormon wives without saying retard?
I can't. There's no other word to describe them. Just
You're
like
right.
I wanted to ask, like Don Bradley, like what other word is there for slut? Like what's the positive word for slut? And I don't know the positive word for retarded women from Alpine who run around drinking swig and coffee in both hands and say they're Mormons. I don't know, but
probably retarded.
Yeah, I think I gotta go. I gotta stay with retarded. But we can't stop saying retarded to get like if we got the subscribers, we just won't ever get. We won't get that monetization, man. Yeah, we won't get the subscribers. We won't get the views.
I think it'd be pretty funny to run a YouTube channel that had like 800,000 subscribers but wasn't monetized. And we weren't
never get a
making
cent.
Yeah,
You
we
never
just
get a
weren't
cent.
making any money off it at all.
If you
'Cause
got
we're
that
too
big though, then
stubborn to-
YouTube would boot you. You'd get a strike. People would strike you.
Yeah, I guess so. So we're just too stubborn to do ad reads and shit
Yeah,
like
I mean,
that.
it's like, I'm on LDS Uncensored. I've had a couple of my comments automatically removed as spam.
Yeah.
And it's not spam. Like I'm just commenting. I think it's not even it's not even stuff where I'm being snarky necessarily. It's just like fuck you, spam. And I know it's because somebody reported me as spam, and so I'm just in it now.
I tried to comment on that Trevor Noah video, and I put like, "This is the smart fart sniffingest shit I've ever listened to," and it wouldn't let me post it. So then I changed it to just fart sniffingest stuff, and it wouldn't let me post it. And I just finally gave up. Like I can't post anything on that. But Morgan asked, "What's Blue Church?" Blue Church is I don't know. Like Flip says, they're trying to turn every church just into a Democratic platform, but most of ex-Mormon influencer sphere is just Blue Church, which we talk about like the General Cathedral. It's just they share all the same viewpoints and ideas of academia, transit sacred.
Well, okay, Morgan
COVID is
isn't
real.
Morgan
I'm not
isn't
COVID is
fluent
real,
in
but COVID
Chris
is-
yet. So when you say things like the cathedral, she's not going to understand what you mean. So blue is obviously referring to Democrats, right? They're the blue versus the red, and the church is just that they're very religious about their shit. It's just
Like, just all-
religious leftists.
All of
And-
their faith-based beliefs that are completely unassailable that we attack all the time, like all of the feminist shit, all of the critical shit, all the Foucauldian shit. That's all the Blue Church stuff. It's all their articles of faith that are unassailable and that they will block you and attack you if you point out. You know.
The cathedral comes from Curtis Yarvin, and here's a brief explanation of it. It says the cathedral is just a short way to say journalism plus academia. In other words, the intellectual institutions of the center of modern society, just as the church was the intellectual institutions of the center of the medieval society. But it's basically just mainstream media. Everything Hollywood believes, everything that
Bourgeoisie. Did you see the comment from Troy?
Yeah, that's wild.
the bourgeoisie.
Bourgeoisie,
That's a good one.
Oh, I'm adding that to my lexicon. That's perfect.
Yeah, we'll start saying the bourgeoisie recently.
No, that's perfect because for a while now, like on NPR, I'll just comment, because so many of their things, like I'll just comment news for the bourgeoisie, but I'm definitely changing that to news for the bourgeoisie.
Yeah, it's the boomer truth regime. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, Divas is fully a member.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how else to say it. Dehlin is what we generally say that Dehlin isn't a deconstruction; it's a reconstruction. It's a conversion. It's a conversion into Blue Church. If you listen to the Brazil one today, the guy just talks about how he just generally starts picking up all the stuff of like women should be leaders, and it's all stuff that generally kind of seems like innocuous at first, but then you go all the way down with it, and it gets all straight into the cynical theories and the critical theory.
If you can listen to Maven for an hour and never go, wait, hang on. You're in the Blue Church. Like, that's how you know. Like, that's how you know.
Yeah, it's just accept everything that MSNBC or Fox even says to you. You know, identitarianism and collectivism. Yeah, that's the choices.
No, like, yeah, it's basically like if you uncritically not just accept but defend present day democratic messaging, that's the Blue Church. That's really all there is to it.
Yeah, and
because that's the thing is like, I mean, like I say all the time, like with like Dan McClellan, where like, you know, when people are like, well, I don't understand, like he's a serious Bible scholar, right? And I always just point out like
every serious Bible scholar, almost
it's
every single one of them is part of Blue Church. Like,
do you like? How is it possible? How is it just happen to be that every single one of Dan McClellan's scholarly opinions is in perfect alignment with whatever Kamala Harris is saying this afternoon? You know, like whatever present day Democratic messaging is, somehow the Bible is exactly on that page every time.
And,
like,
shouldn't it maybe strike you as odd that every single like 1,000-year-old, like 2,000-year-old biblical passage like lines up perfectly with modern 21st century progressivism?
It's the weirdest thing. Yeah, like nobody, no serious person can conclude anything from the Bible that conflicts with present day democratic messaging.
Troy's exactly right. It stands in opposition to classical liberalism ideas, meritocracy, and individualism. It stands against libertarianism. It stands
Why isn't
against
Troy on our show?
he's too high class, man.
But that's right. He's retired. He's doing better things.
But yeah, you're not going to take a critical eye at all to the concept of things like patriarchy that really, as it's laid out, is completely a conspiracy theory. It's just a conspiracy theory the way it's laid out, and that doesn't mean that there's not differences and troubles between men and women. Of course there is. That's obviously like a part, but that's what we talk about, the Thomas Sowell cosmic problems. You're complaining about cosmic problems as if they are a conspiracy done to you by people, and that's usually how it is. Systemic systems of systems that are conspiratorially set up to be there and to have the critical consciousness help us know that all of them are bad and terrible, but you have no real answers to get outside of them. Stuff like the wage gap, stuff like the I don't know what else. You said there's zero critical thought put into some of the problems that Jonathan Streeter brought up to Bill Real about the transgender ideology, and Jonathan laid it out very, very calmly and specifically, and still got called a transphobe by half the ex-Mormon universe, as he constantly does. As he constantly does everywhere that he goes and tries to make people stop and think about the implications of that. Just not taking like a critical eye to a bunch of things that are taken as dogma. They're dogmas. They're dogmas that are just not truths about the universe, or things are way more complicated, or at least not as black and white as they describe them. And they're not conspiratorially done. It's the universe. It's the world. You know, the way money goes, the way poverty goes, the way, I don't know, it all goes in just, you imagine the problem of all of it is that the Mormons are doing it to you or something like that. But
Alrighty, I gotta get going.
Yeah, we've gone long enough.
Yeah.
Whoa, you don't even have $100 million.
Troy says they're doing more things too. Like, keep checking in with their stuff, because they're definitely talking down and breaking down things that are actually part of what the universe actually is.
And they're thoughtful and plan and stuff.
Yeah. Are you really evaluating the universe, or are you reciting dogmas that are just basically political in nature, and stuff turns into liberation theology politics, not just
wow.
Yeah. So
Jared's already gone.
Yeah.
Well, alrighty.
Bye bye, everybody.
Um,
Have a good one.